The story began with the training of warriors who diligently engaged in various types of improving their strength. Many focused on the force of the blow and its accuracy. There were two guys among them. The taller guy asked the new guy standing next to him if he knew Brother Ye, and then he pointed to a mountain, on the top of which stood a large house where Brother E lived. The newcomer asked whether it was normal that he appropriated the whole mountain for himself. Then the elder replied that Brother Ye was the fourth innate Taoist, the chief's best disciple. The newcomer was surprised because he thought that all Taoists had died out. Ye Feng is also considered the lady's sworn brother. After all, the head used to only have female students. Thinking about this life prospect, both guys felt a little jealous. Then the newcomer said that most likely Brother Ye is a very influential person in their clan. But the elder replied that he was simply wasting time and never cultivated. He has been in their clan for 2 months already, but the guy has never seen Ye Feng practice. He probably doesn't even have any rank. At this time, which was no longer morning, Ye Fan was indeed still sleeping. When he woke up, he was happy about the sunny day, saying that today he also got up early. Then, a notification from the system popped up, congratulating its owner on activating the power system. Evil Ye Feng took off his night mask and was surprised that the system appeared again. But she only confirmed the guy's words and said that she was needed so that the owner would go out into the street and rise up. After all, the system is aimed at making its owner stronger. And then the system said that its owner's adventure would begin right now. But Ye Feng did not react at all and simply continued to lie there. Then the system turned to the owner to find out his opinion, but he only replied that he did not need it and went on to sleep. And while the system wanted to raise the guy so that he began to become invincible, Ye Feng began to remember his past, where he was a world traveler. Before he came here, he traveled 99 times, and all times he encountered the system and visited different worlds. I had to practice 10,000 times and then fight monsters. Ye Feng accelerated his cultivation by hundreds of thousands of times, although all his life he wanted to stay in the shadows and watch the plot unfold. But before he could do anything, he was struck down by some strong son of heaven. And then he risked his life all his life to complete the task. But in the end, the time for completing the task ended, for which the system killed him and transferred him to another world. But still, one day the guy was able to reach the limit and thought that this time it was definitely the end. But then he discovered that he was merely a victim of a system that deemed him worthy to be its food. Ye Feng was used to sacrificing himself for others, but 99 times was enough for him. So he decided that if he was going to die anyway, was it worth risking himself so willingly if he ended up becoming cannon fodder? The system was still trying to wake up Ye Feng, but he decided that during this 100 times he would not listen to it, but would simply go with the flow. The system was still obsessively ordering the guy to get up, and he was just thinking about how to get rid of it. He has lived 99 times in this world, so now he wants to enjoy life. Moreover, sleep renews brain function. The system then gave Ye Feng a beginner's reward as motivation and added that he should just accept his fate. Then something vibrated in Ye Feng's pocket, buried under his pillow, after which the system began to malfunction. It was reorganized as it discovered the host's resistance to cultivation and then began to reboot. Then she added that a marking system had been added, and as soon as the owner checked in at the specified place, he would receive a gift. Today's mark is the location of the entrance to the owner's house. The login process is simple. You just need to stand in the designated place. The marking place is only 5 meters away. Completing the task will take about 10 seconds. The system persuaded Ye Feng to get up, but he only wanted to sleep. The system was surprised when it realized that it had come up with all this in vain, since the owner fell asleep anyway. The sun rose higher and higher, and late morning turned into lunchtime. Then Ye Feng deigned to stretch and get out of bed, yawning sweetly. The upset system was surprised when the owner woke up, because she thought that he would sleep for a long time. Ye Feng, without answering, jumped off the bed and stood up. Then the guy went to the place marked by the system, and she again began to encourage him. But Ye Feng simply passed by the indicated point, which again surprised the system, which did not understand why the owner did not log into the system. Ye Feng came to the kitchen and, saying that he was hungry while he was sleeping, decided to prepare food before the system gave an error again. She then started rebooting again to troubleshoot, and then, when the guy began to wash the vegetables, she said that the owner received holy water to heal the body. After drinking holy water, the body is cleansed, all impurities are gone, and you can achieve a new cultivation rank. Disadvantage: the substance is very harmful to demons, so after taking it you cannot cultivate dark energy. But Ye Feng, to the surprise of the system, simply poured out the entire keg of holy water. And then, going up to the stove, he said that he thought the fish was ready. Then, to the disappointed sounds of the system, someone quietly opened the door and entered the room. He was a very timid guy who stammered and greeted Ye Feng. At first, he didn't understand where this guy had come from and looked at him in bewilderment. And then suddenly he called him new, invited him into the room and offered to try his fish. Ye Feng set the table and began to treat the guest, saying that he needed strength. Watching the guy gobble up food, Ye Feng thought that a month ago he had already overlooked the disciple who had just joined the clan, but he did not think that another one would appear so soon. After dinner, Ye Feng decided to take the new guy out to show everyone, but then the door opened and someone else entered the room. These were all students. Then Ye Feng came out to them and asked if everything was okay. The boys then replied that they had received news of the arrival of a demonic cultivator who had disguised himself as one of their members. Then Ye Feng said that the squad had the wrong door, and the girl at the head said that Brother Ye was right and they needed to look elsewhere. Returning to the house, Ye Feng was sure that everything was calm here. But suddenly a strange smell reached his nose. Then he remembered that he had fish cooking and rushed to the kitchen. And the newcomer, cunningly turning to Ye Feng, did not understand how the squad was able to find him. But this does not matter, since he still managed to escape. The guy who let him in saved his life, so he will die quickly. The guy showed small fangs and an evil smile, accompanied by a malicious laugh. But then it stopped, and laughter was replaced by an expression of misunderstanding. His body began to ache, and he did not understand what was happening to him, although in fact it was cleansing with holy water that got into his food. The guy squirmed in pain and eventually disappeared into thin air. At this time, Ye Feng was carrying the cooked fish, saying that it was a little burnt, but it was safe to eat. But then he was surprised to notice that there was no one else at the table. Putting the fish on the table, Ye Feng did not worry about what happened, since they have good security, so no one else will definitely break in. Then the system appeared and congratulated the owner for completing a random task and receiving the book Eternal Resolve. When Ye Feng took the book, the proud system added that this is the best cultivation technique for the master level. But then, an expression of misunderstanding froze on the screen, and the system asked what its owner was doing. And Ye Feng, putting the book on the floor and placing the table leg on it, said that it fits just right. And then Ye Feng said that after eating we could go fishing. Due to this behavior and load, the system began to reboot again. And at this time the sun was already at its zenith and shining brightly, warming everything around. Satisfied, Ye Feng, putting on glasses and taking a bucket with a fishing rod, went fishing. The training students, noticing him, said contemptuously that Brother Ye was point-blank not noticing his talent. But then a girl called out to the distracted guys, ordering them to train. But they liked the fact that they were scolded by their sister, Ziyun's third true disciple, Ziyan. Then explosions were heard nearby, and the fleeing students shouted to their sister that trouble had happened because a man from the Wangxiang clan had come. Then someone's hurried steps were heard, leaving dust behind them. It was the second elder of the Wangxiang clan who said that he asked not to close their gates, but they did not listen to him, so they had to resort to this. The sister immediately took out her sword and asked why break through and be on the territory of the Xian clan. Then the elder replied that he wanted the nine-tailed fox to be given to him. The students were surprised at the request, as they thought that this was just a character from legends. They would have made a leap in development long ago if they had such a thing. The dissatisfied elder replied that they had been chasing this fox for several days, but here they lost the trail. Then why don't they all explain themselves? Ziyan replied that she was unable to make any decisions, so she needed to consult with management. In the meantime, I asked the Wangxiang clan not to come here. The angry elder immediately gave a command to his soldiers, telling everyone to see what their clan was capable of. The sister immediately went on the attack, asking how they dared to come to them with so many people. This is too bold. A struggle ensued, but at that time someone rustled in the grass nearby. Then a guy appeared and, sticking his head out of the bushes and watching the battle, slyly said that the plan was a success. Jumping out of the bush, he added that everything happened as he thought, so it was good that it ended in a distraction. The next moment he took off and rushed towards his target through the forest. But then he noticed a fisherman and was surprised because everyone should be training now. But it seems that this is a mere mortal, and he looks like a complete hopelessness, and not a person. The system suddenly told the owner that there was a nine-tailed fox nearby and offered to catch it. But Ye Feng lazily chewed a blade of grass and did not understand why the system did not give up. Then she decided to provoke Ye Feng, saying that it was simply too weak for him to do this. But don't let him worry, because the system has a special ball that you just need to throw at the fox to get the soul. Then Pi Feng stood up abruptly and stared forward. The system was happy, saying that the owner finally had motivation. But Ye Feng just pulled the fishing rod and happily said that he finally got the bite and pulled out the fish. The system angrily threw its ball to the side, while Ye Feng rejoiced at the catch and said that there is nothing more important than fish. The ball flew to the side, flying too high, and the next second he fell on the head of the cute creature. It was the nine-tailed fox. It stared displeasedly at the ball that hit it, trying to understand what it was. Then the ball lit up, and the fox thought that someone wanted to conclude a contract with her. The fox thought with fear that some person wanted her to lose her freedom and participate in fights. The light from the ball has already blinded the fox, who said that he would not fall for this bait. After some time, the system congratulated the owner on acquiring the spiritual beast, the nine-tailed fox. Then the same guy came out of the bushes and didn't understand what was going on. Did they really kill the fox? Is this really the work of that harmless fisherman? But it doesn't matter. First he will kill him, and then he will deal with the fox. The guy shot a spark at Ye Feng, which the system started screaming at him about, but Ye Feng continued to sit. Then, the dissatisfied system, realizing that the owner still did not respond, repelled the blow for him. Then the spark released by the guy headed back towards him. Because of this, an explosion was heard in the bushes and clouds of smoke appeared. This was noticed by the elder of the Wengxiang clan, who wanted to figure out what happened. Then he directed his power at Sister Ziyan, who did not have time to parry the blow. She sank to her knees and winced in pain while her warriors supported her. The elder was surprised, as his palm should have caused serious damage to her. Didn't it work? But then other girls appeared in the sky, saying that the Wengxiang clan had become completely bold. The clan elder immediately fell to his knees, as did his warriors, and began to apologize, offering compensation for his actions and begging to be released. The main sister simply looked at it all questioningly, but that was enough. All the members of the Wengxiang clan rushed to the leak, saying that they needed to look for the fox, and my sister wondered what they had forgotten here. But this is not important now, since Ziyan needs to be helped first. But then the girl's eyes widened at what she saw, expressing shock. Opposite her stood Ye Feng with a strange round thing in his hands, and asked in surprise whether he really had news here. Then a sound came from it, indicating that they had problems and needed to return. Ye Feng immediately threw down all his fishing things, including his fishing rod and hat, and rushed back. On the way, he saw the body of a guy into whom a spark flew and subsequently created an explosion. Looking at him, Ye Feng thought that this was another trick from the system, and if he paid attention to this person, then some kind of system task would definitely be launched. But Ye Feng could not be fooled so easily, so he simply jumped over the lying body and moved on. Opening the doors, Ye Feng turned to the elder and asked if he called him. The girl sitting above the bed said that Ye Feng's sister was dying, so she asked the guy to come say goodbye to her. Ye Feng was very surprised by this turn of events. After all, everything was fine with her in the morning. What could have happened? And the elder replied that it was all because of the Wengxiang clan. Ziyan cultivation is based on sensing the demonic spirit. 6 months ago, something happened to her, so now she has serious problems with the demonic force in her body. Today, the Wengxiang clan began to attack her, so she decided to use her technique, but simply could not cope with the energy in her body. This led to demonic energy moving randomly throughout the body. Therefore, in the current situation, they cannot be sure of Ziyan's safety. This news truly upset Ye Feng. He remembered the first time he saw her. She saw him as a new student and said that he could call her sister mentor. She always said that if Ye Feng doesn't want to train, then it's not a problem because she will always have his back. Ye Feng said angrily that it was all because of the damn system, how vile it is. The system immediately began to justify itself, saying that it had nothing to do with it. Then a girl came into the room and brought water for the head. The system was still trying to distract the owner by making a healing potion for him, which angered him. Then he loudly shouted at her to shut up so that she would stop talking. Out of fright, the system dropped the potion into the water. Looking into the bowl of water, Ye Feng again saw the notification that the potion was ready. Dipping a rag into the solution, the head said that she hoped it would help relieve Ziyan's pain. Here, Ye Feng volunteered to help the elder, since she had been here for a long time. Ye Feng dipped a handkerchief in the solution, intending to apply it to his sister's forehead. But then the energy emanating from the solution intensified. The head thought that her senses were dull, because Ye Feng couldn't just change the composition. Here Ziyan's face acquired a healthy blush, which indicated that she was returning. The surprised elder did not understand what was happening as her sister's wounds began to heal. She understood that literally just now Ziyan was doomed to death. When did everything change? And she was not only cured, but also made a breakthrough to the 10th floor. Ye Feng, watching the elder, was surprised by her every reaction to her sister. Is everything okay with her? Ye Feng decided in this case to leave the sisters alone and began to leave, wishing the elder not to forget about rest. After a while, late night came. It was time for serious discussions. All the important people for the clan gathered at one table and asked the elder how Ziyan was doing. The girl, to everyone's surprise, replied that everything was fine with her. But then the elder said that the sisters' condition would wait. Now we need to talk about the Wengxiang clan. Conflicts sometimes arose between their clans, but this was the first time such an invasion had occurred. But the opponents turned out to be inexperienced, so they quickly dealt with them. Here, one of the members of the meeting said that he saw another disciple of the Wengxiang clan who was killed by the equipment of his own clan or committed suicide. The elder thought about the possibility of this guy committing suicide. Perhaps there is some kind of infighting in the Wengxiang clan. But then it dawned on the girl that then only Ye Feng could be on the lake. Did he really do this? But he is not capable of this kind of thing, since he does not even train. She brushed these thoughts aside, deciding that Ye Feng would not be able to do such a thing unless he had abilities unknown to her. When the elder was asked if she had any clues, she answered positively, but first she would like to see for herself and visit her sleeping sister tomorrow. The elder then asked if there were any leads on the nine-tailed fox mentioned by the Wenxiang clan. She was told that none of the disciples of the Jiyun clan had seen her, but if they noticed her, they would definitely report her. At this time, already in the morning, Ye Feng was sleeping while the system tried to wake him up and tell him that his pet was dying from the city and needed to be fed. Disa thought to herself, why did Ye Feng sign a contract with her if he couldn't even feed her? Then she decided to get her own food and ran to the kitchen, where the remains of the food should remain. The kitchen was perfectly clean, as Ye Feng loved order. But the nine-tailed fox was serious and was ready to do whatever it took to get food for herself. But then her stomach began to growl again, and all her seriousness subsided slightly. But she found vegetables and began to eat them one after another, thinking that it was delicious. The thief was noticed and the whole house shouted to catch him. And then the door creaked slightly and two men entered the room. They were tracking the energy of the nine-tailed fox, which was becoming brighter, which meant it was close. The second man didn't think that Elder Ziyun wouldn't find the fox. Apparently God himself is helping the Wenxiang clan. The first man was angry because he had given the second elder a lot of resources, but not only did he not catch the fox, but he also compensated for the damage to someone else's clan. Therefore, he wanted to meet the elder in person. In addition, they spent a lot of money to attract public attention, so they will definitely be able to get away with it. The partner only supported his leader and his plans. Then the men saw Ye Fen and were surprised that there was a person in the room, because they were all supposed to be at a meeting. But the partner said that this is a mere mortal, and they are not taken to meetings. The man grinned evilly and said that in this case the mortal would only hinder them. He doesn't want to make mistakes in the future, so he attacked Ye Fen, wanting to kill him. The partner shouted joyfully that he did not expect anything else from the elder. Now he will kill the guy with one blow. But then the system appeared and responded that this would definitely not happen on its shift, and struck the enemy. He fell straight onto his partner, knocking him off his feet. Ye Feng woke up from the noise, thinking that it was rats again, but the system was happy when the owner finally woke up. She had already adapted to her owner's disposition and understood that if she woke him up herself, he would ignore her. Therefore, it is better to first deal with the problems yourself and then wait for the owner to awaken. Realizing what was happening, Ye Feng widened his eyes in surprise, and the system said that this was an opportunity for him. After all, these two wanted to harm Ye Feng, so they need to take revenge. But Ye Feng only asked, how do people manage to confuse the doors? It seems that he himself mixed up the room and fell asleep as soon as he arrived. Fortunately, he has a pill that can awaken them, otherwise he will still be to blame for their cold. But the system suddenly shouted that these people wanted to kill him, but Ye Feng did not believe her. Firstly, in the Ziyun clan, students are prohibited from injuring each other, and if anyone violates this decree, they will be executed. Secondly, Ye Feng has no abilities and no treasures, so there is no point in killing him. He's not that special. In addition, he has already lived more than 99 lives, so he realizes his value. And then Ye Feng began to pour the medicine into the enemy's mouth. The system was horrified by such an act and did not understand why its owner was so stupid. The man suddenly opened his eyes and was surprised that he was alive. Ye Feng stared towards the awakened men and greeted them with a sly smile. But they ran away and in an instant found themselves at the exit. Satisfied, Ye Feng noted that everything seemed to be fine with them. But then he remembered that this medicine, which he gave to the men, was rumored to have strong side effects. But rumors are most often deceptive, so Ye Feng simply decided to continue sleeping. The nine-tailed fox just thought about why these men came in the first place. They had already run 500 miles when his subordinate approached the elder and said that they had been running for too long, but the elder was afraid. He added that the man was not only able to repel their blow, but also saved them from death. But his face looked creepy, as if he was laughing. Never in their lives will they forget that smile, as if he cared about them. But the elder replied that this was rather mockery rather than concern. His partner replied that it was strange that the Ziyun clan would hide such a strong person. But the elder replied that the main problem was that they were too weak. The partner wanted to remind them about the fox, but the elder replied that there was no time for these thoughts. The main thing was that they saved their lives, and the rest was nothing. Therefore, you need to prepare some kind of gift for the main one and present it at the end of the journey. Suddenly, the elder stopped and stared at his partner, who was making some strange body movements, explaining that he just wanted to dance. The elder immediately became angry at this behavior of his subordinate and began to shout. But nearby there was a wild boar, which they woke up and which was ready to attack. But approaching the people, the boar was surprised that they were not afraid of him. The elder said that the boar was in excellent shape and invited him to join them, and his partner added that, as a judge, he would personally take care of him. Strange sounds began to be heard from the forest, attracting attention. The clan's students immediately noticed this and decided to check what was happening there. They rushed towards the noise into the forest thicket. Having reached the goal, the two body students are shocked by what they see. The elder danced with the boar, and his partner pestered the monkey, imagining that it was his father. Apparently, this was the same side effect. The clan's disciples immediately rushed back, calling these people fools and deciding to report everything to their elder. The next day, two guys walked through the forest and discussed the fact that the head and the elder had not yet returned. Moreover, I haven't heard from them. Then they heard strange screams and decided to find out what it was. They approached the source of the sound and, hiding in the bushes, began to observe. Then they saw something that surprised them greatly. They saw their elder and his companion lying among the animals having fun around them. At the meeting of the heads of the Ziyun clan, it was already discussed that the elder and the head of the Wengxiang clan were dead. The elder was surprised that this happened right next to their clan, which is very strange. The man suggested that they were killed by clan members. The elder said that it was time to resolve this issue and check on the Wengxiang clan, but Elder Wengxiang said that they would not forgive them for the death of their leader, so they would disperse the Ziyun clan to smithereens. But Elder Ziyun wanted to figure something else out, while Elder Wengxiang was already choosing the next head. Elder Ziyun rushed into the sky to quickly reach her goal. And in the Wengxiang clan, there was already a struggle for the position of head, and some did not want to remain in the clan, where the head died so comically. At this time, around lunchtime, morning had just arrived for Ye Feng. He woke up and, yawning, went into the kitchen to prepare breakfast. But suddenly he saw that all his food had been eaten and all the baskets were empty. He looked into one of them and asked where his food was and where could it have gone. At the bottom of the basket he saw a fox and thought that it was she who had tried so hard. He pulled the sleepy animal out by the scruff of the neck and began talking to her in disappointment. Ye Feng said that he collected everything very carefully and there were valuable things. The system was happy that the owner had finally noticed the nine-tailed fox and added that if you use it for cultivation, you can grow quickly. But the fox looked kindly at Ye Feng with sweet eyes, thinking that he looked kind and didn't even beat her, although she ate everything. Perhaps she made conclusions about the guy early, since he seems like a good person. The joyful system said that Ye Feng's and the fox's hearts had made contact, and they should continue like this. But Ye Feng suddenly decided to ask what is the best way to eat fox, steamed or dried? And then he added that you can also deep fry it. The system tried to dissuade the owner from such thoughts, since it was a very rare fox, and the animal itself was already preparing for death. Ye Feng then realized that it was impossible to eat the fox. The system confirmed his words, and the fox exhaled, thinking that all was not lost and the guy might change his mind. But Ye Feng said that fox meat simply had a strong smell, so first they should stuff it with pills to get rid of the smell. The fox realized with horror that the guy wanted to kill her. Then Ye Feng reached for a knife and decided that it was better to kill the fox so that it would not escape, and the animal itself was shaking in horror and thought that its end was near. Then an elder appeared at the door and asked his brother what he was up to. Ye Feng replied that the girl was just in time as he was about to prepare the fox. While the guy was raising the axe over the animal, the elder immediately recognized him as a nine-tailed fox, and Ye Feng asked the girl to move away so that she would not get dirty in the blood. The elder only agreed in surprise, but in principle, you wouldn't expect anything else from a person with an innate heavenly Tao, and it's normal that he eats a fox as food. But the elder's mind soon stopped looking for excuses, and she snatched the fox from under the knife, saying that she would not allow it to be killed. Ye Feng surprisedly told the elder that this was his breakfast, but the girl did not want to give up the animal for anything. Ye Feng then said that if she liked the fox, then let her take it. The elder thought that if Ye Feng was attacked by the Wengxiang clan, then he might have problems with his head, so she couldn't let the guy cook. Therefore, it is better to protect the fox, who was already in shock. Ye Feng didn't understand why the elder was so worried about an ordinary fox, so he decided to ask the girl what happened. Then she suddenly remembered something important. Taking the guy by the hand, she led him into another room and told him that he needed to undress. Confused, Ye Feng asked if it was necessary to do this, but the girl was adamant. She said that she is already over 1,000, so does Ye Feng really think that she is interested in him as a man? Let him just take the top off because she needs to inspect it. Ye Feng gave the elder a disdainful look and thought to himself that she was just an old maid who wanted attention. Moreover, if you count the entire age of Ye Feng, who has lived 99 lives, it will also be quite a lot. The elder, after examining Ye Feng, noticed that there was no cultivation base. Then how did he manage to help Ziyan? It was very strange and not like the truth. Thinking that the guy might be hiding his true strength, the sister came closer and said that there was no one around. Then maybe he would share the secret of his cultivation, and she would keep it a secret. But Ye Feng, not at all embarrassed, thought that he was tired of this look and the timbre of the seductive voice. Then he answered the elder that he was like a baby and a mere mortal in front of her. The girl thought that this was some kind of play on words and that he actually broke through before the Yuanying period. And she's already been there on the first floor for 2 whole months. The innate heavenly Tao is amazing, and their clan will soon begin to prosper. But Ye Feng, turning to the elder, wondered to himself, would she really not ask him anything else? The girl suddenly approached Ye Feng and told him to train hard and not leave everything to chance, and also added that she understood everything, which meant nothing to Ye Feng. After the elder flew away, Ye Feng thought that he needed to go to the lake and pick up the forgotten fishing equipment. The elder thought that although the disciple stands his ground, she can read between the lines. At this rate, he will surpass her in half a month. Then she will appoint him as the next head, because she has lived for this. Hugging the fox, the girl also joyfully thought that now she would not have to resort to the help of a demon. Although the contract will still be valid, you won't have to use it. Having settled the fox in the house, the elder thought that the appearance of this animal here remained a mystery. Then her sister appeared behind Ziyun and asked how Ye Feng was doing. The sister added that the guy has been in the clan for about 2 months, eating, drinking, having fun, but not practicing. Even if he had an innate heavenly Tao, he shouldn't waste their resources so pointlessly. The elder smiled and said that Ye Feng is actually already in the Yuanying period. The sister laughed, saying that the elder just wanted to protect him, but let her not say such nonsense, as it was funny. Then the footsteps of one of the clan's students were heard, who was approaching the girls, shouting that their affairs were bad. When he came running, he added that something bad had happened to the second elder, which surprised the sisters. At this time, Ye Feng was walking around the city and suddenly heard bad insults from all sides. He saw the crowd and asked why they were all gathered here. One of the students asked how long it would last this time. The old elder again pestered one of the sisters, calling her little wife, and asked her not to leave him, to which the sister asked him to stop and not call her that. Looking at this circus, Ye Feng thought that the problem was again with this elder. But the students said that, unfortunately, the second elder is the strongest alchemist of their clan. He always prepares medicines on a whim and then tries them himself. Ye Feng then thought that this behavior could be a side effect, and immediately thought of the 2 men whom he had given this medicine to drink in the morning. But they were already halfway to another world. Then the elder ran up to Ye Feng, calling him Yun Er, and added that he had finally met his father. He said that no one would harm him again and offered to go to his mother. And the disciples standing nearby thought that as long as Brother Ye restrained the elder, they could safely leave. Then Ziyun appeared on the horizon, who ordered not to touch her precious student, and the sister flying behind her did not understand why such a rush. After all, if Ye Feng is in trouble, then let him get out of it himself. But the elder noticed arrogance in her sister's eyes, and then she said that it was all her fault, which surprised her sister. The system shouted to the owner that the second elder was dangerous, but Ye Feng replied that he was just a sad old man who could not be dangerous, only the guy did not like that he was messing with him. The system got angry, not understanding how a guy could stand calmly while he was being groped. Hasn't he heard of tragic incidents? Then an explosion sounded near Ye Feng, and the second elder flew several meters away from the guy. He landed on the ground right next to his sisters, groaning heavily. Seeing this, the elder jokingly called Ye Feng a parasite since he had just defended himself, while he himself claimed that he had no cultivation base, which meant he was hiding his abilities. Then the old man woke up and tried to figure out how he got here. Students stood nearby who noted with regret that now they would be extreme. Everyone thought that Brother Ye did this, despite the elder's low cultivation level. He is on the 10th floor of Qi refinement, so it is strange that Brother Ye was able to deal with him. Then the elder noticed that Brother Ye was going fishing and told him to catch as much as he could, thinking that this was just an excuse for Ye Feng not to cultivate. But the guy himself didn't think that the elder would be so welcoming, and thanked her. The disciples, looking at this, began to say that it seems that Brother Ye has special advantages over them, and he has definitely laid the foundations since he managed to defeat the elder, and from a mere mortal to the period of laying, the foundations is a huge leap. Previously, Brother Ye was considered a non-entity, but now everything has changed, and the system still bothered the owner with attempts to force him to practice, go to the library, or receive awards. But Ye Feng continued his path, which was watched by the clan students, for whom the guy became an idol, and they now wanted to train even more. Rumors spread quickly, and one of the students told another that Brother Ye was going to the lake and needed to be followed. Someone said that Brother Ye would be cultivated on the lake and it couldn't be missed. Then they said that Brother Ye was planning to teach new techniques at the lake, so he had to go. The girl called another student to say that something big was going to happen on the lake that couldn't be missed. Rumors reached the elder, namely that Brother Ye had caused a vision of heaven and earth on the lake. The girl was very surprised to hear this, thinking that her assumptions were correct. Turning to her sister, she said that she was right about him after all, and then she turned and began to walk away, saying that she wanted to talk to him. She really wanted to see what would happen next. Now everyone was watching Brother Ye's fishing. The girls admired his beauty, saying that his movements and behavior were perfect, but they did not feel the fluctuations in spiritual power. They blamed it all on their low level, while the elder waited for the disciple to bring forth the vision of heaven and earth again, while her sister said to pay attention to his behavior. Ye Feng sat quietly and thought why it was so cool, as if a bunch of perverts were watching him. Then, taking all his things, Ye Feng headed home, as it was colder and he did not want to get sick. Then an elder came out of the bushes and ordered everyone to return to training. Everyone immediately obeyed the order and took off into the air, heading back. And Ye Feng was already approaching the house, thinking that he would have an earful tonight. All this time, the system did not want to give up, telling the owner that at the door of his palace there was an activation point that must be stepped on to receive a reward. Ye Feng stepped on the designated spot, and the joyful system congratulated the owner for doing it well. The reward was a bottle of liquid. When used, you can go directly to the first floor of Yuanying for a great chance for promotion. The system was ready to give the owner the prize, as it was glad that he had finally logged into the system, but Ye Feng suddenly remembered that he forgot to water the flowers. Taking the bottle from the system, he said that it would come in handy. And then he poured the liquid into the flower to the displeasure of the system, which could not understand why it was so difficult for the owner to complete the task. Soon it was late night, and the stars and moon appeared in the clear dark sky. Then a strange sound was heard coming from the direction where the plant that Ye Feng had watered stood. Suddenly something rustled. It was a leaf falling from a flower. And the next second the flower came to life and energy began to ooze from it. Thus, the plant managed to obtain a cultivation base. The flower understood that all this was thanks to the owner, and he would never forget his kindness. The flower began to rise upward, as if reaching the level of the gods themselves. He grew and grew, reaching the sky and strived higher and higher. The disciples noticed that the sky began to change because something was happening to Brother Yi. The disciples thought that Brother Ye was worried that they didn't see his vision, so he activated it at night. Someone shouted that Brother Ye was his idol, and many people supported him. The sisters stood and also watched the large blue beam. One sister asked if things were going too fast, but the elder replied that Brother Ye just did it. Now she was happy that their clan was about to become famous. She started jumping for joy, but her sister besieged her, telling her to maintain her image as an elder. Already in the morning, one of the students rejoiced at the opportunity to deliver food to Brother E. Then a couple of guys called out to him and ordered him to stop, to which the guy became wary, but stopped. He asked his brother what he was going to do, and he told him to leave the food and get out, otherwise he couldn't vouch for the consequences. The guy apologized in fear and replied that he could not do this, since the clan forbids transferring his responsibilities to others. But another student told him better not to make him angry, otherwise he would have a lot of problems, and again ordered him to give the food back. But the guy only pressed the basket closer to himself. He said that no one dares to take away his food. The next second, a cloud of dust formed around him due to the ensuing fight. The guys did not understand what kind of power this student had, like a monster in human form. A couple of minutes later, the guy picked up his basket and rushed towards Brother Ye, leaving the shocked and beaten guys behind. At this time, the elder of the table was on the edge of the cliff and said to the eagle flying in front of her that the Ziyun and Huyu clans had always been friendly. Why then did their excellency decide to visit the Ziyan clan today? The bird replied that there was no need to worry. They didn't want problems. They are only here because of the spirit of the nine-tailed fox. But Elder Z replied that she had never seen her. Then the eagle shouted that if the elder refused to cooperate, then he would have to beat the truth out of her. But the elder was already ready for battle, rushing straight towards the enemy. Then a bright flash appeared due to strong impacts, after which the tortured and wounded eagle could no longer fight, but only glared angrily at everyone. Then the elder asked if he wanted to continue. The bird replied that it seemed that the presence of the nine-tailed fox in the Ziyan clan was true. The eagle turned around and flew away with the thoughts that he would soon report everything to the overlord, and then they would destroy the Ziyun clan. But the elder did not want to let go of the bird, having caught up with it and dealt a strong blow. It caused the eagle to lose its balance and begin to fall down the cliff. The pleased elder said that it was time for them to dance to their tune. At this time, it was already day on the mountain where Ye Feng lived. Ye Feng carried the food and called out to Brother Li, hoping that he was not busy. He told him to wash his hands and sit down at the table. Brother Li praised Ye Feng's food, saying that his food was always top-notch. In the previous 99 lives, Ye Feng had nothing but cultivation on his mind, but now he wants to do what he really likes. Then the tray was suddenly blown off the table. The guy and Brother Li thought it was a demonic force. Then Brother Li noticed how Ye Feng was starting to move away from him, as if someone had grabbed him. Then Li was also captured. It was a huge eagle that threatened the elder standing below, that if she dared to approach, he would let them go into free fall. Elder Z became angry. How dare he grab her treasure? Then she ordered the eagle to let them go, and then they would let the bird go. But the eagle laughed, saying that he didn't believe it, so he would take them with him, and if anyone dares to get even a little closer, he will immediately finish them off. The frightened Brother Li looked at Ye Feng, hoping that he would help him. But Brother Ye looked scared, which Li even liked. But in fact, Ye Feng was thinking with annoyance that he was always getting some kind of test. Then the system appeared and said that it had something for the owner. Then a strange light began to emanate from Ye Feng, surprising not only the eagle and Li, but also himself. The light blinded the eagle, which even had to turn away from the victim. The next second, the eagle fell to the ground, and the elder admiringly told Ye Feng that he was terrifying. She immediately ran up to her student and offered to rest with her, but Ye Feng replied that he had no desire. Entering the house and seeing the broken furniture and Ye Feng's upset look, the elder told him not to worry, as she could give him new furniture. Ye Feng just wanted to wave it off, but the elder turned to her disciple again. And then she asked if he would like to participate in the exchange program next month. But Ye Feng, looking at the killed eagle, told his mentor that they had plenty of meat here and offered to treat her in the evening. The girl replied that in that case, she would come in the evening. Ye Feng then sat down over his prey and began to examine it. A second later, he was already plucking the feathers to prepare the bird. While Ye Feng was preparing, the system was thinking that if the owner went to other clans, he would have the opportunity to obtain valuable magical weapons. Then the owner will be able to kill all the monsters with ease. The system wanted to congratulate the owner on his new achievement, but then interrupted, remembering that he didn't care anyway. Then Li appeared behind Brother Ye, carrying water. He decided to ask Ye Feng something. He said that his mentor recently set him up on a blind date, and at first the conversation went pretty well. And then she asked a few questions, and then, after his answers, she immediately left. Ye Feng then asked what the questions were. Li replied that the girl asked what his family did, how many industries they had, and so on. And the guy answered the truth, that the family was engaged in agriculture, they didn't work in the city, and they didn't have spirit beasts or anything else. Ye Feng looked at Brother Li with disappointment, saying that in this case it was not his fault, and told him to stay for dinner, and they would not tell the mentor. Brother Li looked at Ye Feng with delight, noticing that he was very attentive and thinking that he would help him in everything. And then Li thought that there were a lot of beauties hanging around Brother Ye, but he didn't pay attention to them, but talked to him well. Did he really guess that Brother Li was not really who he said he was? A little later, the elder and her sister came to Ye Feng for dinner. Third sister smiled at the guy and greeted him, and Ye Feng offered her something to eat. The elder, looking at her sister and Ye Feng, noticed that they had a good atmosphere and they also ate together. But then Ye Feng approached the elder and offered her his dish. The elder noticed to herself that the guy has problems with talent and upbringing, but with respect, everything is perfect. She was happy that she had such a good student. Then Brother Li appeared from behind, carrying a huge sack and saying that if that was all, then it was time for him to go. There was a lot of garbage in the bag. Ye Feng told Li to make sure he didn't fall apart and bid him farewell. Later, third sister approached Ye Feng, wanting to thank him for saving her. And then she promised that she would definitely help him in the future. But Ye Feng smiled and told his sister to put aside her excessive politeness. The sister thought to herself that Brother Ye was already in the Yuanying period, but only at the 10th rank of laying the foundations. How can he repay his kindness? At this time, Brother Li was carrying the garbage to the place where all the waste was thrown out. Then he noticed something curious in the trash bag. Taking out the protruding thing, the guy realized that it was a book. And then Li remembered Brother Ye's words, who told him to watch out for trash. Well, since he said so himself, it's okay if Li reads this book. After reading several articles, Li found something interesting, namely, the technique of immortality. Li was surprised. How could Brother Ye throw away such a valuable thing? Most likely, he left it on purpose. Rejoicing, Li exclaimed to his parents that he would finally achieve success. Reading a book at night, covered with a blanket over his head, Li did not want to tell anyone about this technique. She is very good and will help Li become stronger. It was necessary to find a place where no one would find her. The bed and floor will not fit. The closet is uncomfortable and basically unsafe here. But then it dawned on Brother Li, and an idea came to his mind. He put the book in his pants, saying that it was already normal and safe there. Rejoicing, Li said that no one could find him. And then he began the first step, activating qi and circulating it for a week, starting with 1%. The Tianqing clan's huge ship was racing across the sky. The disciples of the Jinyang clan were amazed at its size and beauty. The Taoists of Tanking have the 7th rank of Yuanying, which they never even dreamed of, but they have aimed at the 9-tailed fox and are flying to the head, but if they don't succeed, then they can attack. At this time, a conversation between her and her sister was going towards the head's room. Third sister asked, why not ask Ye Feng if he could take part in the competition? But the elder replied that she had already asked. But Ye Feng refused, so they should do their best anyway. As long as Ye Feng cultivates calmly, their clan is safe because they have the coolest disciple. At this time, Brother Li, remembering Brother Ye, continued to cultivate, already at a good level. In 2 months, he will definitely reach perfection, so Brother Yi should just wait. Then a man appeared at the door and said that Wen Qing was injured 2 days ago, so Li should take his place tomorrow. Then Li objected, saying that Wen Qing was at the 5th level and he was only at the 4th. Isn't this dangerous? But the man said that if Li fights, he will not die, and the guy thought that he had only been cultivating for half a month and it was still too early for him. At this time, the competition was already being discussed everywhere, saying that the owner of the golden core would win, since the majority were only at the stage of laying the foundations. There was a sister standing on the rooftop, talking about the Qi refinement period taking place in the next round. Heimu of the Tangqing clan against Li Mingbai of the Jiyun clan. Heimu has the 5th rank of Qi refinement, and Li Mingbai is only the 4th. Isn't this an instant win? Li thought with annoyance about why Heimu was the opponent. He's definitely finished now. He will immediately be on the ground. What a shame. But Li's rival told him not to worry, as he would be careful, so Li would only lie down for half a month. Elder Z only watched the upcoming battle with annoyance. Li thought maybe he could behave more naturally, but at least he wouldn't be noticeable. But the opponent had already attacked Li, shouting that he was finished using his energy. The next moment, it struck directly at Li, who closed his eyes but continued to stand. But then Haimu's face changed. He thought that his opponent was rank 4, and he would definitely fall from such a blow. But D stood and did not move, thinking that the enemy's fist felt too weak. Then Haimu, surprised by this reaction, struck again, but nothing changed. Heimu was shocked because he didn't understand what was wrong with his opponent. Then Li whispered to Haim that he was touched by his mercy, but couldn't he be a little stronger? Angry, Heimu asked if they were all like that in the Jiyun clan. How dare this boy talk to him like that? After thinking, Li decided that Heimu was right and he needed to be more persistent, so he would first start to take him out and then fall. Then Li suddenly closed his eyes, released energy, and attacked his opponent, shouting at the same time that he should get what he deserved. The blow itself was soft and hit Haim on the cheek, but the opponent, a moment later, flew far away from the force of such a blow. Li himself was surprised because he thought that he didn't hit him much. The elder suddenly became happy, saying that she knew it, because her disciple Ye Feng does not specially show up, sending his close, no less weak comrades. After some time, another warrior was carried away on a stretcher. Everyone was discussing why he fell. It must be cheating, because no one can take a man down with one punch. Then the voice of a man was heard, who asked threateningly if they really wanted to question the opinion of their great judge. Then the discussions immediately died down. At this time, Li kept looking at his hands and trying to understand what was happening to him. It must be time for immortality. He decided that everything should work out for him now. And at this time the eagle brought sad news to its master. To which the Lord of the Eagles with silver eyes, the Lord of the Mountain of Fiery Feathers, replied that since the Xian clan defends itself so desperately that they even killed 2 of their comrades, then they really have the 9-tailed fox. The eagle spread its wings and said, "Go ahead, it's time to remind the cultivators who's boss." The eagle flew up and said that as soon as he took the spirit pill of this fox, he would take primacy among all the demons. At this time, in the battle ring, Li won victory after victory. He threw enemies away from him like splinters. The chief judge then said that Li Mingbai has won 7 times in a row. Does anyone else want to challenge? But no one responded because everyone was scared. And Li himself already wanted to show everyone his strength. He also hoped that this would not tarnish the clan. The head of Tianqing told the elder of the Jiyun clan that he did not think that they had such a strong young warrior, to which the girl replied that the elder praised him too much because the student was just in the period of Qi purification. Then, Elder Tianqing decided to change the topic and ask about the 9-tailed fox, which alerted the girl. One of the Tianqing clan members noticed this and thought that the clan was starting to fall into trouble. But Elder Z smiled sweetly and said that they believed too much and this did not happen to them. Then the person from the Tianqing clan thought that everyone from the Jiyun clan was selfish and lying. But now, you shouldn't act rashly. Therefore, if the 9-tailed fox is not given to them today, then the Xian clan will have a hard time. But clan head Xian sensed the dark energy and was ready. She then rushed towards the enemy amid the screams of her students. But he only said that he would give them 3 minutes to think, and then there would be nothing left of the Xian clan. And then he started counting down. Elder Z thought that if she gave away the animal, then her disciple would not be able to move to the next level. But what then to do with the clan? Then the enemy from the Tianqing clan told the girl that she was not one of the timid ones. But then, focusing his energy, he finished the countdown, preparing to attack. Then he attacked the elder with death threats, wanting to kill her. But then he felt something strange and stopped. His gaze went back to see what was going on there. Turning around, he realized that it was someone halfway through becoming a god. And then a huge Lord of Eagles with silver eyes appeared from the clouds, in an aggressive mood. This is the same demon from the Fire Feather Mountain. It is in the Yuanying period. Has he really come for the blood of the 9-tailed fox? And so it was. But the eagle flew on, looking at the house in which the fox was, and headed towards it. At this time, the action took place in Xianyu Peak in Ye Feng's kitchen. He opened a recipe book, preparing a new dish, and regretted that he did not have any evil meat left, since now the dish would not have the same aroma. At this time, the system was trying to inform the owner that his fox was in trouble and asked him to help her. But Ye Feng continued to cook as if nothing had happened. Frustrated, the system asked itself the question, why is it even trying so hard? And then she used the emergency summoning technique and failed. Then, as if from a teleport, the same nine-tailed fox fell from the ceiling. She plopped straight into the sink where Ye Feng was washing vegetables. And then she started splashing around in it and screaming, trying to get out. Then Ye Feng helped her, and the fox thought that he had saved her, because there was a terrible demon living outside that could cause her to die. But Ye Feng only said that the fox had become much fatter than half a month ago, which discouraged the animal. He looked at her as if she were just another meal he was about to cook. Realizing that there was no point in deluding oneself into the illusion that Ye Feng had changed, the fox began to run away, but the guy grabbed one of its tails and said that the quality of its meat should now be no worse than pork. At this time, the eagles flew to the energy of the fox. Suddenly, one of them said that the energy had changed, and it seemed that the nine-tailed fox could teleport. The head of the eagles was surprised, thinking how much strength she had, and headed back. In a second, with great speed, he turned around and rushed towards the target. The disciples noticed this and told the leader that the eagles had changed direction, and the elder immediately realized that they were heading to Jianyu Peak, where Ye Feng lives. The girl realized that things were bad, because her student lived there, and rushed to him. Tianqing clansmen asked the third sister why she didn't follow all the masters to chase the eagles, but she replied that she did not know how to act, because they were not rivals to the king of the Silver Eye. And then she told the man, if he wanted this fox so much and put pressure on his comrades, then why didn't he fight the eagles? And the girl herself thought that, although Ye Feng is really very strong now, but the Silver Eye King is still half a step ahead of becoming a deity, the two of them will not be able to defeat him. It is better to follow them. At least they can protect the head of the sect and Ye Feng. At this time, the day was already coming to an end, and the rays of sunset illuminated Ye Feng's house. And he already put the fox in the frying pan, thinking that the best ingredients usually require slow simmering. First, you need to chop the onion, garlic, and ginger, and add to the water. Then, add a spoonful of salt, a spoonful of soy sauce, and a suitable amount of rice wine. That's all. First marinate, then it will be easier to remove the skin. You also need to prepare some ham. But then the voice of the system was heard, shouting that the owner was facing a devastating blow, so he urgently needed to head to the door to receive the reward. But the guy didn't have time. A huge eagle's paw was already reaching out to him and grabbing him with its claws. The Eagle King rejoiced when he realized that he had quickly caught Ye Feng. But then he noticed that it was not the nine-tailed fox, and he was disappointed, wanting to try to pull it out again. But then Elder Z appeared and called her dear disciple. But then she noticed that he was already in the clutches of a bird of prey. Tianqing clan. Elder was surprised that the fox was hiding here, and then looked at Ye Feng and wondered who he was. But the guy didn't even worry about his position and decided to lick his fingers, which apparently had food residue on them. Then the elder turned to him and asked if he had already killed the nine-tailed fox. The third sister was surprised by the elder's question. It was strange for her that she was worried about this at such a moment. Tianqing clan noticed that the guy was not afraid of the Silver Eye King at all, and Master Ziyun did not look worried either. Is it really all about the guy's strength? The head of the eagles at this time thought that human cultivators were too noisy, and it would be better to just crush the guy and throw him to the others. The system, trying to reach the owner, realized that it would have to cope on its own, and again used enormous force. The eagle did not understand what kind of attack this was. Is this guy really on the deity level? But he was eventually hit by an explosion caused by the system. A moment later, he fell, and Ye Feng simply lay down next to him on the soft feathers of the defeated beast. He was so calm that he almost fell asleep right on the battlefield. But everyone who saw this was shocked, as Ye Feng was able to kill such an enemy, who was half a step away from becoming a deity, instantly. Moreover, hundreds of infant-level demons were killed at once. Tianqing clan elder thought that the guy was some kind of ancient monster disguised as a young man, and I thought to myself that I would not want Master Ziyun to decide to take revenge on him, since he insulted her. Then he began to suck up, saying that Master Ziyun was indeed full of hidden possibilities. With such a great master, he would surely rule the eastern wasteland in the future. Unfortunately, he was in a hurry and did not take the proper gifts with him, so he needs to leave first, since their sect also has their own affairs. But he will come another time. But Master Ziyun said that the elder cannot just leave. He was surprised, sitting down under the gaze of the two sisters. The elder said that the conference is not over yet. Why would the man be in such a hurry? And he, almost going crazy with fear, said that they were giving up and would never disturb them in the future. But Elder Z decided to mock him, saying that they had come such a long way. Would they really leave just like that? Then others will think that her sect is offending her. And then she added that there were small differences between them, but her sect, as masters, would not take extra from them because of these little things. But under her gaze one could read that she wanted compensation for the damage. Tianqing clan thought that these were thoughts out loud, and then they realized that the elder really did not hide his intentions at all, despite the pride of the cultivator. Why be so hypocritical? Elder Z then told her sister to take everyone to the backyard to rest, but meant to lock them there and prevent them from escaping. The girl was surprised by the order, but still decided to carry it out, becoming a villain for a while. Then she added that the sister should not overdo it, because everyone understands everything, but in fact she said to beat every last drop out of them. The sister understood and began to carry out the order. She then turned to her friend Dao Tianqing, asking if his birthday was coming soon, but he did not want to answer out of fear. But the elder replied that in this case she would prepare him a big bill gift list. Everyone understood that the Tianqing sect would disappear and go bankrupt. Even the pots and pans would not be saved. Then Elder Z turned to her dear student, saying that he was very strong, since in 2 months he went from a human to the level of a deity. It seems like heaven favors the Zian sect. The elder's assistants added that Ye Feng seems to be not only the carrier of the innate Tao, but he is also the reincarnation of a great master. Then he may lose the memories of his past life, but his techniques are preserved, and if he shares them with other disciples, the Ziyun sect will become great. But Ye Feng said goodbye to the master and the elders, saying that he could not wash off the dirt from himself, so he would go home and said goodbye. But the master told him that they still had to deal with the demons. Everyone said there was a lot of work to be done. If you pluck the feathers of the King of Silver Eye, you will get a nice artifact, and the master added that she would make warm clothes out of them for her student. A few hours later, the feathers were plucked, and the eagle became much smaller. The master was glad that the job was done. After all, it was not easy to deal with a semi-divine demon. And then she remembered that she had something important to do, and she remembered Elder Tianqing, who threatened her, saying that she should know what this would lead to. Then the students smelled a delicious smell, thinking that it was already lunchtime. But then they noticed that the smell was coming from Ye Feng's kitchen, and that was the smell of demon meat. Immediately thinking of the nine-tailed fox, the elder rushed to the guy's house. In an instant, she was next to his door and flew into the house. She quickly reached the kitchen and noticed a huge saucepan standing on the stove. Looking into it, she saw a nine-tailed fox in it, boiling with vegetables. But then she opened her eyes, which the girl noticed, and stuck it out. She was glad that she noticed her in time and was able to save her. Lisa was in shock and tried to come to her senses and understand what was happening. Seeing the girl, her eyes widened and filled with tears of joy. She rushed into the master's arms, rejoicing at her arrival and the fact that she did not meet her great-grandmother. The girl told the animal not to cry and said that she would take care of him. Then Ye Feng appeared with a knife in his hand and said that he was wondering how this little girl opened the lid of the pan, but it turns out that it was the master who took it out. The girl screamed, and Ye Feng told her not to worry, because he would now prepare fox cannon fodder for her. The fox then clung to the master, asking for help. The girl said that Ye Feng seemed to have an excess of water element. Otherwise, why did he have so much water in his head? After all, he almost killed his soul pet. But Ye Feng replied that this pet was just a piece of meat for him. He killed it, and that's fine. Then the elder, making a sweet face and hugging the fox, said that Ye Feng had promised to leave it to her. Ye Feng admitted to himself that the master was a very sweet girl, but when he remembered that she was already over 1,000 years old, it seemed strange. What should he do now? Then Ye Feng agreed with the girl and said that to prepare the demon meat, he needed some more herbs, so now he will prepare it. Looking at the slab and the missing fox and girl, Ye Feng added that he was not finished yet. That night, the entire Ziyun monastery was filled with the smell of meat. The dark sky was covered with clouds, through which the stars could be seen. Drunken voices and cheerful cries of "Drink, drink, drink" were heard on the lantern-lit streets. Brother Li and another disciple talked about how everyone was too short-sighted, because in the morning they only saw Brother Ye go out to fight, but did not understand at all what was behind his actions. Everyone asked what the guy meant. Then he explained that Brother Ye was summoning golden dragons, and if Ju Wang had appeared at that moment and Brother Ye had approached him, what would have happened? Nobody understood anything anyway. Li called everyone stupid because they couldn't understand such a simple thing. Then one of the friends said that perhaps Brother Ye might hurt them once again during the fight. Brother Li confirmed the students' words, saying that he was a guy with promise, and the others asked if they would still drink. But Li replied that that was enough for today, and it was time to cook the meat soup. But then he asked why elder brother Ye, although he could have won the competition, did not go out to fight. And then Ju Wang suddenly came with a group of monsters, which is too strange. The same guy replied that this could also be in brother Yi's plans. Then Li was happy, saying that everything was right because brother Ye had foreseen that the enemies would come, so he stayed at home, waiting for the moment. He can not only destroy all the monsters but also not harm his own. This is all part of brother Ye's plan. Then everyone began to marvel at brother Ye's abilities again, saying that he was invincible and praising his name. A little later morning came. The sun shone on the Ziyun clan. Something strange has been happening since the morning. Many students were chasing one of the sisters and she asked for help. They all wanted to ask her to become her boyfriend and said that they could not live without Sister Yan. In the end, they caught up with her and began to promise happiness for life and wanted to marry her right now, but the girl could not escape. She said that she was focused on practice, so let them look for someone else. Then another sister peeked out from around the corner. At the same time, the brothers praised each other's aromas and said that they felt very good with each other because love would soon overwhelm them. The third sister could not understand what was happening while watching this bacchanalia. The sisters also pestered each other, complimenting each other's skin and looks. Their feelings were high, as if they would soon become immortal. The third sister stood with a huge plate of soup and was still perplexed by what was happening. She thought that she had underestimated the demon meat and decided to let the students enjoy it, forgetting that it has a rather wild nature and power, and many fruits grow on the fiery feathers which cause attraction. How then can the local animals not eat them? Although wait, it seems that it's all about the soup, to which something was added. It was necessary to urgently inform the teacher so that she could give her awakening tinctures. At this time, the master asked her sister to let her go, but she did not lag behind, confessed her love and invited her to marry her, but the master did not mind. Hearing the agreement, the sister was delighted and pulled away, but that was all the master needed. The next second she gave her a strange ball to eat, which made her wrinkle. But a moment later, the girl looked at her mother with misunderstanding and asked what just happened. The master replied that Ziyan was under the influence of demon meat, so let her quickly go to the main hall for help from the senior elder and let the other disciples drink the tincture to awaken. Under the control of the teacher and the senior elder, Ziyun was calmed down and did not become He Huanzong's next victim. But a new commandment appeared at school. Cooks are not allowed to use wine to remove the smell from demon meat without permission. The master chuckled, saying that she didn't think that today, because Li Mingbai and the others got drunk. So many things would happen, but after they wake up, they will praise Ye Feng and say that he foresaw all this. Even the best Tao body does not have such strangeness. At that time, the master had only glanced at the ancient texts and knew that a first-class Tao body was powerful, but perhaps there was something she didn't know. Previously, in the country of Aohai, there was one practitioner with a first-class Tao body. He was powerful. At the age of 20, he killed Hai Jiao at the metamorphosis stage, and at 30, he became the king of Dohai. At the age of 40, he began to study fortune-telling, and 2 years later, he mastered the art of prediction. Taking a look at his life, all his predictions came true. Was her dear student also secretly studying the art of divination? And if Li Mingbai's rumors are true, then everything that happened that day was in Ye Feng's plans. If you think about it, that day, apart from the fact that the master was hit by hot soup, she was not injured. The medicinal herbs used perfectly concealed its essence, because hot water was not capable of harming spirit beasts. Back then that day, her disciple was apparently trying to rush to the Hua Shen stage. Time was too short to hide the spirit pet, so he used the steamer as a temporary solution. He was also afraid of accidentally harming others, so he used a soul pet to distract Ju Wang and the other monsters. The girl did not expect that her precious student, who is usually lazy, had thought through everything in such detail. 3 days passed after that. Ye Feng sat in front of the fireplace and watched the fire. He yawned, remembering that the teacher had gone to rob the 8 great sects, but 3 days had passed and she still had not returned. Then a system appeared, inviting the owner to register. But Ye Feng waved it off again, saying that he was tired of the system. First, he creates the illusion for others that he is very strong. Then he uses the flattery of others to relax his defenses, and then he falls into a trap. Or in a few days, he will go to study the system of waste, where he can become stronger by spending money. But the system said that the reward for registering at the door has been updated, and the owner can now easily receive the reward by going to the door. The system successfully helped the owner register, and Ye Feng received a mysterious pet egg as a reward. Here Ye Feng, to the delight of the system, became interested in the egg. Then the system said that what hatches from there is completely random, but at the minimum, it will be a 9-tailed fox, and there is no upper limit. The system deduces from the surface of this egg that it is very likely that it will be Qinlong or a phoenix, one of the best among the celestial beasts. This beast can be very strong and help the owner to develop, creating a spiritual connection with him. But Ye Feng put the egg in the basket and said that it was quite clean. Then the system screamed and told the owner to stop dangerous actions because all animals would be dangerous. But Ye Feng didn't care, so the system decided to restart again out of anger. An hour later, the room was filled with strange smoke. Ye Feng, lost in thought, looked at the egg where the same strange light was coming from. Ye Feng wondered why the egg did not ripen even though it looked like it was still alive. Here the system said that the mysterious pet egg has undergone unknown changes, but it is safe to say that the life organism inside is safe and sound. But then the egg cracked and a small paw came out. Ye Feng immediately began to carefully observe the hatched creature. One after another, 4 paws poked out of the shell, and then a muzzle poked out and began to bark. Ye Feng immediately thought about the destroyer of home comfort, the husky. It is strange that there is a husky that lays eggs, and that has already jumped on its new owner. The dog began to lick the guy, and he asked him not to do this and to dodge, since the saliva was very dirty. The system congratulated the owner on finding the mythical beast, race, mutated husky, level, supreme mythical beast, defense, impenetrable, attack, none. But Ye Feng said, even though he doesn't eat dog meat and there's not enough of it here, it's still better to steam it. But the system got angry again and told the owner to stop. But Ye Feng locked the dog in a basket, from which he immediately began to try to get out. And after a couple of seconds he succeeded and jumped out, breaking through the walls. But it accelerated so much that it rushed further upward and broke through the ceiling. Surprised, Ye Feng noticed that the first destructive mission in a dog's life first smashed the ceiling. And then, with an upset look, Ye Feng decided that this dog was definitely not worth keeping. Night soon fell, as clear as most days here. Ye Feng was sneaking around with the dog in his arms, thinking that there was no one here, so nothing like the fox should happen, so he should throw this dog away quickly. It's time to try flying an artifact that can be piloted using a spiritual stone. Ye Feng then used magic to lift his bed and sat on it, taking the dog with him. The disciples noticed the bed flying in the sky and said that although senior brother Ye seemed lazy on the outside, he actually worked hard. He already went to train early in the morning. Such amazing talent and such hard work, it is no wonder that eldest brother has become the strongest in the sect. The student decided to return and be sure to tell his brothers about this. Ye Feng flew to a city where there was not a soul so early. The guy put the dog on the display case, thinking that it was more than 3,000 li from here to the sect, and if he left the animal here, they were unlikely to find it. Next, Ye Feng sat down on his flying bed and cheerfully waved goodbye to the dog. But the dog looked at him confidently, calmly, and attentively. What flashed through his head was that the owner had left, hid, and was playing. And then the dog was happy, deciding that they were just playing hide-and-seek with him. At this time, a girl was flying across the night sky on her flying sword. She drank something tasty, enjoying the pleasant night wind. In her opinion, the cool wind is like a refreshing drink, the mountain landscapes are like rare delicacies, the starry rivers disappear, and the flying dog glides across the sky. But suddenly it dawned on her that there clearly shouldn't be a flying dog here. She realized that the flying puppy was at least the level of the golden core. If she could catch it as a pet, it would be great. But then, out of nowhere, a sharp sword appeared quickly flying towards her. He flew to the girl and wounded her on the side, causing her to almost lose her balance. She squirmed and screamed that she was trapped again. And from above a huge ship appeared flying across the sky. And then the girl's body fell from the sword and quickly flew down. Men on a ship holding a flying sword, talking about the folly of hermits who want everything for themselves. The second of them mentioned a woman from Ziyun, that she is too ruthless, even taking spirit stones from external disciples. If he can bring this heritage-level young beast, he can compensate for the losses of their Tian King sect. Then one of the men said that he felt something, and the second one said that he was now using a lasso to catch the beast. They went down, but only noticed the dog's tail, the rest of which was submerged underwater. He dived into the lake, hiding from his pursuers. For some reason, it seemed to the man that this animal was not very smart, but his partner said that this was a young creature, so he needed to show understanding. Then one of the men grabbed the dog by the back part sticking out of the water. And then, in surprise, he pulled him out of the water upside down, but the dog was holding something in his teeth. Bringing the dog to his face, the man began to examine the dog closer. He looked into the dog's eyes and realized that he had found the right person in the form of a dog. He was ready to follow the dog anywhere as long as it led him. And then the man happily added that the restoration of their Tang King sect depended on this dog. But then the second man got involved and ordered the first one to quickly turn away from his hypnotizing eyes. Thus, the Tang King clan took the dog for themselves, kidnapping him on a dark night. He didn't suspect anything and just sat and looked at his captors. The clan elder asked his elder brother where he found this treasure and why no one noticed it. He replied that on the way the hermit collided with their flying boat, after which he noticed this dog. He further added that to prevent information from leaking, he killed all the monks along the way so that no one else would know. The older brother then ensured that he would determine the puppy's level. The elder and the elder brother stared at the dog, smiling at them. The elder wondered what level this beast was. It's red fire, blue lightning, or wood. In general, the main thing is that the color is deep enough. Then they first shone a lamp into the puppy's eyes. Then they examined its open mouth under the light. But at that moment, something suddenly alerted them and plunged them into shock. The dog took a bite and held a piece of the lamp in its mouth, after which it suddenly took off and ran away. The evil elder ordered the stupid dog to return his Suyan lamp to him. They quickly caught the puppy, and the elder began to take the solar lamp from her mouth. But no one could do it. The elder was surprised. Where did this stupid dog get so much strength? And she also smears the lamp with her saliva. This could have a bad effect on the rainbow stone-like lamp. But the saliva still got on the stone, causing it to begin to shine greatly. The elder asked Brother Kagwan why it glowed so much, to which he replied that this solar lamp becomes darker with each change in color. The dog continued to squeeze the stone between his teeth until it cracked. and a moment later he saw through it, without even choking, and he himself was surprised at this outcome. One man was surprised that the solar lamp exploded, because it can withstand several attacks even from a worse-level cultivator. How could this dog chew it up? But Kagwan replied that, apparently, the talent of this beast is very high and exceeds the abilities of detectors. Hugging the dog, the clan elder said contentedly that they have hope of returning. The man added that when the dog grows up, they will easily unite the eastern wastelands, and Kagwan added that he will take revenge on the witch Ziyun. Then someone started knocking loudly on the door. The elder handed the dog to Kagwan and said that he would open the door now. A student stood behind the door. The elder attacked him, saying that they should not be disturbed during important meetings, but the disciple replied to the leader that something terrible had happened in the forbidden territory behind the mountain. Then, that same night, the detachment headed to the place indicated by the student. The elder asked who is behind this. Could it be that other sects are taking advantage of their weakening? The head ordered the elder and second elder to go evacuate the students, and the rest of the elders to follow him for protection and prepare to meet the enemy. But then a voice came out of the darkness saying that there was no need to do this, and ordered him to bow to his ancestor. But the elder asked, "Who dares pretend to be an ancestor? If this is true, then let him appear and prove it." Agreement came from the darkness, and the warriors stood in a circle, preparing to defend themselves just in case. The clan elder said that this is the great Tangqing formation created by the ancestor himself. And then a large image of a man appeared in front of them, looking impressive and powerful. The elder was surprised to recognize this appearance, asking the ancestor if he was still alive. But the ancestor replied that time flies quickly, and more than 3,000 years have passed. Here all the warriors fell to their knees greeting their ancestor, but then he told them to stand up. One more day of absorbing the energy of heaven and earth, and tomorrow he could calmly leave the tomb. Since the clan members are on alert, but even without protective artifacts, it is unacceptable for the Tianqing clan to have difficulties. Then the elder spoke, asking for an answer to the ancestor. After listening to the story, the ancestor was indignant that someone who only had a Huasheng level would dare to encroach on their Tianqing clan. Tomorrow, he will personally destroy the Ziyun clan. Let the clan members show their determination. They were already ready to follow the ancestor's orders. The ancestor himself continued his cultivation, levitating above the surface. But then he noticed that there was too much energy. Today, it seemed that it would be difficult to reach the level of Dongshu and come out of the retreat. It looks like he needs to absorb the flesh, but everyone below the Yuanying level has gone to Jiyun. If this continues, he may be hit by a backlash from the technique. It is better to first kill some Lianqi and Jindan level inner disciples to replenish. But then the ancestor heard the disciples discussing the spiritual pet, which the head ordered to guard. But he disappeared and no one saw him this morning. One student hoped that the pet would still appear, otherwise the two of them would be finished. The second teacher told the first not to transfer the blame to him, because he himself did not restrain him. But then they both dodged, feeling the murderous gaze of their ancestor. He immediately stood over them and began to suck their energy out of them in order to fill himself. The students' bodies began to dry out, getting closer to death with each passing second. But their energy was not enough for the ancestor. Then he remembered the spiritual pet they were looking for. He felt this energy that was purer than a 1,000-year-old lotus. Turning around, he saw a puppy urinating on the corner. The ancestor became angry, asking how this fool dared to defile him in this way. But for his pure energy, he will allow the dog to die with honor. But the dog decided to release gases directly on the ancestor. He was shocked by the behavior of the dog, which defended itself in this way. His power was able to cause great damage to the ancestor. The upset ancestor lay there and thought that he had almost reached the level of Dongshu, and was torn apart because of the dog. What kind of animal is this? The spirit of the ancestor flew over his old body trying to recover. But then he realized that someone had started digging the sand above him. This was the same dog that discovered the burial place of an ancestor. He looked down confidently at the body, whose spirit was terrified. For the pet, it was something very interesting and curious, burning with blue fire. Then the dog began to pull out the nails to get to the contents. The spirit wondered why the coffin nail spell didn't work. The cursed animal does not understand that if it opens the box, the spiritual energy will leak out. The spirit did not understand why the animal did not feel him, but if his body was discovered, he himself would disappear. You'll have to rely on your students. And then he gave them the order to gather in the backyard. But there was no one around, and the dog continued to dig and pull out nails. The spirit did not understand why no one reacted. If he had known about this, he would not have killed those two. But the puppy's innate talent for destroying everything in silence worked perfectly. The last nail remained, and the ancestor began to pray that the dog would not take it out. Let him take all the nails but not open the coffin lid. But then the puppy pulled the last nail out of the coffin. Its lid immediately opened, throwing the puppy back. But he landed on his paws and began to watch what was happening. The ancestor's body immediately began to rise up with a scream, trying to hold on to the energy. But it all flowed away, after which the ancestor's body evaporated into thin air. All that was left was ashes, which the puppy looked at. He was upset that he did not find anything while holding a nail in his mouth. It was as if he was in a cemetery, and there was a tragic atmosphere around him. But the dog just decided for himself and concluded that tearing into pieces is a pleasure. At this time, Elder Z spoke to Ye Feng, saying that someone saw him go out on a flying artifact to train at night. But the student denied these words. Then the elder told the guy not to deceive her, because if not training, then what was he doing outside the sect? Ye Feng replied that he had important business to attend to. The girl didn't have time to ask what the matter was when a student ran to the head and reported trouble. Tanking Daojin came with many elders. The elder was outraged that they dared to come to them. Do they really have any protection? This needs to be checked. Then she told the student that she would go away for a while, and Ye Feng told the teacher to come back quickly. And the girl thought, is Ye Feng really worried about her? Then the guy suddenly invited the girl to go with her and see what was happening. The master reacted positively to this proposal and agreed. At this time, the Tanking clan's ship was already flying over the Xian clan's territory. The clan members were scared when they saw that Tianqin decided to come so openly. Their presence could be felt even from several miles away, and they seemed to come prepared. Of the Tianqin clan called the head of Ziyun, saying that a birthday gift had arrived. The girl asked Darin Tianqin, "What's going on there?" He then replied that their elder Tianqin had been reborn, and now their days were all numbered. The girl thought with horror that he had used a secret technique to temporarily die and was now reborn. If this is true, then things are bad. Senior Tianqin was at the 10th level of perfection. Even if his strength had diminished, her disciple would not be able to resist him. Then, the head told her sister that Ziyun would not be able to withstand it, so they should urgently inform her disciple and others to escape through the secret passage. The sister was worried about the head herself, but she replied that thanks to the reputation of her student, they would not dare to touch her. But the head of the Tanking clan said that his partner died a long time ago, and although Ziyun acts like a small woman, she will do for a partner. Ziyun got angry, saying that she would tear out the head's eyes for such thoughts. But he liked this look, like it was trash because it looked real. Here all the elders looked at the head in surprise, realizing that in essence he was making an offer. Laughing, the head said that the eldest was already on his way, so let them look at his majestic appearance. But then someone's voice was heard, saying that something terrible had happened, since the ancestor was no longer there. This means the sect is destroyed. This was all done by the animal that the head brought. It dug up the grave and destroyed the sect, scrolls, supplies, and records. The elder looked at the artifact, noticing that it was broken. His face began to express hopelessness and hysteria. He almost fell, thinking that he was finished, but his subordinates supported the head. But he already said that they were missing. The eldest died, the foundation of the sect was destroyed. No one could resist the student, because he could even kill a golden dragon instantly. The next second, the head's breathing began to become difficult due to the black liquid pouring from his mouth. The disciples realized that he would soon die. Third sister was surprised. How did he reach the Yuanying level with such a mental state? The elder suggested that with the help of pills. But since the eldest and the head are dead, it means there is no one in the Tianqingzong clan who could stop her. Then Ziyun commanded all the elders to attack, and they instantly agreed. Ye Feng watched everything from a huge cliff. He watched the confrontation between the two armies without engaging in battle. He watched the fierce battle in boredom. The elder dealt with his enemies without much difficulty. The girl cut them into pieces with her sword. All members of the enemy clan flew away from her like splinters. Then she ordered the third sister to get rid of the body and not get dirty. She accepted the order. Elder Ji then noticed that the Tianqing clan's disciples were escaping, so they escaped the attack of 2,000 or 3,000 people. Besides, this clan is about to fall apart. But then the sisters noticed something strange and could not understand what was happening. They saw a coffin flying through the sky under the influence of force. The third sister stood on the flying sword and told her sister to follow her and deal with it. Then they remembered the ancestor of the enemy clan, who might be there, but at the moment the coffin was being dragged by a dog. The elder decided that the coffin needed to be stopped, since it could not move in Jiyan territory. Even the ancestor was killed by the monster that moves the coffin. What can we say about her student? But the dog continued to fly and suddenly noticed his owner below. He immediately became inspired and rushed towards Ye Feng. He began to fly so fast that the elder could no longer keep up with him. The monster must have used a secret method to speed up, but the girl was still able to catch up with the coffin and landed next to it. And then she noticed Ye Feng and realized that this coffin was being carried for him. Is Ye Feng really that thoughtful? She looked at the guy with displeasure, smoldering at him. And he suddenly took the dog by the scruff of the neck, calling it names and saying that even if he were returning, he would at least be without a coffin. The elder was surprised that this demon was being raised by her disciple. Then Ye Feng carried the dog to the kitchen, saying that the demon needed to be cooked. But the elder began to stop him, because she felt sorry for the dog. Then Ye Feng answered the master that this dog is a great killer. She has no home and cannot be left alive. It's just a reward provided by this stupid system. When the elder realized that Ye Feng did not care about the demon, she asked him to take the dog for himself, making cute eyes. Ye Feng immediately handed the demon to her, telling her to take the dog, but never do that again. The girl happily agreed, took another pet for herself, and left happy. When she returned, the third sister ran up to her and asked how she was able to tame the demon. Elder Z replied that it was her student who did it, which greatly surprised everyone present. She also added that Ye Feng was so smart that he knew that the ancestor would be resurrected, so he specially released the pet to the Tianqing sect at night. The sister only added that it was not worth eating it, and the man next to him said that spiritual pets are so powerful that Ye Feng's cultivation must proceed at great speed. But then doubts came into the third sister's head and she asked if Ye Feng would destroy their sect in the future. The elder was surprised by this statement, but replied that this would definitely not happen. But heavy thoughts had already overcome everyone present, after which they stared at the demon dog. Then one of the disciples appeared on the horizon, carrying another guy and saying that trouble had happened because he and his brothers had encountered a dark cultivation. The elder was surprised that there was dark magic near the Xian clan, as it could harm her students. She ordered her sister to strengthen security, and the second elder to contact other sects and report if they noticed a dark cultivation. At this time, something interesting was happening in the mountains. A girl who had previously been knocked down by the Tanking clan in pursuit of a dog walked along the paths and said that her life was difficult, but it could be for the better. She was wounded and said that the world was cruel, and although he gave her money, he deprived her of a home. Suddenly, she heard sounds. In the bushes, she saw a tired old man complaining about sore bones and not knowing how to get home. The girl immediately smiled and offered the old man a ride on his flying sword, but he refused, thanking the girl for the offer. But she insisted on help, thinking that he was an old monk to whom all heaven owed money. But this was far from the case. The old man radiated dark energy, and after a moment, stretched his bony hands towards the girl. At first, she did not notice this, since she did not expect a threat, but the old man damaged her eyes with a blow. She immediately fell and lost consciousness, and the weak old man suddenly turned into a tall, young, and strong guy. Taking the girl by the hand, he called her another loser and dragged her along the ground with him. He dragged the body into a cave, where red magical patterns appeared on the stone floor. The place itself looked creepy. No sunlight penetrated there and human bones lay around. Then the guy threw the girl into the center of the magic circle and said that he had made a sacrifice for the great demon. And then, smiling slyly, he thought that he would definitely become the strongest monk in the eastern desert. Then morning came. The sun illuminated Ye Feng's house. Ye Feng sat boredly on a chair while the system told him about exorcism for evil forces. Ye Feng, with the same bored expression, took the exorcism paper prepared by the system. The system asked to pay attention to it and the rewards it gives out, but Ye Feng simply crumpled the piece of paper and threw it in the trash. Then Brother Li appeared at the door and brought Ye Feng food, for which he thanked him. Li also added that he put all the dishes in the basket, and Ye Feng invited his friend to eat together, since he had already prepared almost everything. But Li refused, saying that he had a lot to do, and then invited Brother Ye to throw out his trash if there was any. Then Ye Feng happily agreed to such a favor. Thus, Brother Li took away the trash bag with him again. He came out into a large clearing. Thinking that there was no one there, Li decided to examine all the guy's trash to see if he had put anything interesting there this time. But, having thrown the garbage onto the ground, Li at first noticed only the remains of food and a tasteless smell. He looked at the dumped pile with disappointment, not wanting to think that it was really just trash. Brother Ye said that it was great to have special skills, so he shouldn't have offended him. After rummaging through the trash, Li still found something interesting, a piece of paper stuck to a bone, from which energy emanated. Having unhooked the piece of paper and opened it, the guy was very surprised when he realized what he had just found. He immediately hugged her to himself, thanking Brother Ye for his kindness, since he thought that he had thrown her away especially for Li. But the guy needed to meet with his brothers, so he hid the rune under his clothes and went to the meeting. He reached the place he needed in the city center. He asked a local merchant if his brothers were there, but the man replied that something had happened and they all left for the north. Frustrated, Li realized that the brothers had received a task, so he decided to catch up with them to make up for lost time. As he left, he turned around and thanked the merchant for what he had told him. Walking along the path, Li did not see a single passerby along the way, just as he could not find the brothers. He couldn't understand what was happening. Then, passing by the bushes, he noticed in them a weak old man who was sitting under a tree with his eyes closed. Then Brother Li decided to come up and ask if everything was okay with him, but he did not answer. Thinking that this old man looked very bad, Li decided to take him to the city first, since he still could not contact his brothers. And so it happened. Li brought the old man to the guest room and laid him on the bed, and he began to meditate. Suddenly, the old man woke up, which happened quite abruptly, and tried to understand what had happened. He stood up trying to figure out where he was and who brought him here. Then he saw a guy sitting in the center of the room and realized that it was him. He recalled that initially dozens of monks were captured and transported in 3 batches. But in the third game, they met the bear demon and Elder Xian Kong. Not only did they waste a double, but they also lost over a dozen monks. However, this boy just took him and brought him here. The monk decided to control him for a few days and then take him as a sacrifice. But as soon as he tried to use dark energy, he immediately encountered a strange sensation. A bright light, like a flash, appeared around the meditating guy. This flash turned into a blow that directly hit the old man, who flew back. He, sagging on the floor, did not understand where this energy came from, which could kill him. Does this guy really have such a strong weapon? Then the old man realized that he could not compete with him, and tried to escape, approaching the door. But then he encountered another obstacle that shocked him. Something threw him back again, while the guy was still sitting calmly on the floor with his eyes closed. Here Lee finally decided to exhale and imagine his favorite place. This place was a large hot spring. They were incredibly beautiful, and the guy was already looking forward to taking a bath. Having already immersed himself in the water, he completely relaxed, as he was incredibly comfortable. Leaning on the edge of the pool, Lee thought about how much he missed his mother. But then his meditation was interrupted by a sound, and he opened his eyes. Looking around, Lee tried to understand what happened, and then, remembering what he remembered during meditation, he became confused, not understanding what was happening to himself. But then he turned around and was surprised to see the old man's body lying on the floor. He was unconscious, and smoke was coming from his body, as if he had had a hot day. Brother Lee immediately ran up to the old man and asked why he fell to the ground. Then the old man's eyes began to open and he saw Brother Lee smiling in front of him. He recovered in a second and looked at the guy in fear, backing away and ordering him not to approach him. Lee immediately began to make excuses, saying that he was not a bad person but just a disciple of the Ziyun clan. But the old man continued to run away and crawl away from the guy, telling him not to come near him. But Lee realized that this could be dangerous. The old man had already crawled to the stairs from which he could fall. Ignoring Lee's warnings, the old man continued to run and, breaking through the railing, began to fall down. Falling to the ground, all he could do was groan in pain as he lay on the floor. Brother Lee immediately descended to him in one deft leap. He told the old man to hold on and began to try to heal him. But the magic was light, and the old man was the master of dark magic and did not carry true ki in his body. Therefore, such healing could be fatal for him, which is what eventually happened. The rays of light magic turned into gray smoke flying over the old man. Brother Lee tried to ask him if he could handle light magic and if he was attacked by someone with dark magic, but all he could do was breathe out his last breath and give up his spirit. Thus, grandfather died in front of Lee, who was trying to save him. The guy immediately began to blame himself because he did not immediately notice that there was dark magic in the old man's body, and he used true ki without asking. If he had sent the old man to the sect to a local doctor, he would not have died. Evil practices only do bad things to heaven and earth, so Lee will take revenge for this. Lost in spirit, Lee left his house and headed into the city. There he met his brothers, who were worried about him, since they had not seen him for a long time. They started talking about how the inspector had found Shishu in the north of the city, but at that time, they were fighting dark magic. They could not defeat the elder, and the inspector could only save a dozen brothers. Suddenly, Lee heard the familiar name of the enemy and thought that it could be the old man whom he had brought to the city. Lee thought that the old man had been injured by the chief inspector at that time. It is not right. Why didn't Zishu do anything to him during Qi practice? Chief Inspector, Yuanying. Even if the evil cultivation is not Yuanying, it is at least a golden elixir. After Zishu woke up, why did he look worse and even fear Lee? Could there really be something scary about Lee? Well, maybe his charm. Then Dee turned around and rushed back. When the brothers asked where he was going, he replied that he had something to discuss with Brother Ye. Ye Feng thought that he couldn't cope with the cooking and already regretted not calling the masters. The guy started cooking too much food and couldn't find the perfect recipe. Then, an excited Brother Lee burst into his kitchen, wanting to tell him something. Ye Feng was happy to see Lee as he arrived just in time to eat with him. But Lee replied that he came to thank Ye Feng, but he also didn't mind having a snack. And then Lee asked why Ye Feng needed so many dishes. He replied that lately he had become addicted to cooking, so he tried every dish. He originally wanted to ask the masters to come with him, but they were so busy with evil cultivation that even he knew about it. Unfortunately, he couldn't help, and it had to be Brother Lee. Lee, listening to Ye Feng, was thinking that he gave him the rune so that he could deal with Xie, so he was preparing food so that he could return safely. But there is too much food to eat alone, and he must save his brothers before they can eat together. By the way, isn't Zishu already dead? So what can cause headaches for the overlords? Doesn't it mean that there are other evil cultivations? Out of excitement, Lee began to eat very quickly. Ye Feng told him to snack on rice and vegetables, otherwise he might choke. Having finished, Lee exhaled heatedly and thoughtfully. Then, after thanking Brother Ye for the food, he said that he had some things to do to reach the rank of overlord, so he would go already. Ye Feng warned him of the danger, but Lee said that he would be careful. At this time, the city was discussing the disappearance of Zishu, who managed to escape after the battle. Elder Z ordered all the disciples outside not to leave the clan's territory, and those inside should help search for Zishu. The girl further thought that while blocking the sect might save these disciples outside her territory, the people in the city below the mountain would most likely suffer, and her precious disciple had better let him calculate the position of the dark cultivation. But then she thought that her student had most likely already expected all of this, so he should have a plan, but there was no need to worry about it now. Then Brother Li ran into the room and said that Ye Feng had sent him to help them. One of the elders looked at Li with disdain as he ran into the sect's main hall without following any rules. But the girl told him not to be angry and to drink a cup of tea, and then she turned to Li, asking if her student really sent him here, and does the guy know where the other disciples or the dark cultivator are now? And with so many questions, Li was dumbfounded and awkwardly replied that he didn't know. Then they asked him what he was doing here. Then the door suddenly opened, and another student appeared in it, shouting that something terrible had happened. The angry elder said that none of the disciples of this clan care about manners, and then still asked what happened. The guy shouted that all the brothers brought by the elder inspector were bewitched. It's the same with other disciples of the sect. From such news, the elder even choked on his tea and spat it back into the cup. At that time, there were students standing on the street from whom there was a whiff of dark magic, and they, as if under hypnosis, did not notice anything around them. The elder, observing everything, angrily asked, "How dare someone do this to people right under their noses?" But first, the source of the dark cultivation had to be found. The girl replied that if Sishu continues to act so boldly, then they will definitely find him. But the elder added that the evil monk had already acquired disciples within the sect. Then, Elder Z ordered the man to take the older disciples with him to help. They should not be under the influence of dark forces. And then she told Li that he could go too, which made him very happy. Elder Z added that half of the elders and her disciples guarding the Xian clan should be fine, but she hopes that this is not a trap by an evil cultivator to ambush them. At this time, the most terrible thing was happening in an old decrepit house on the outskirts of the village. A creature resembling a strong demon stood inside, saturating itself with the power of a cultivator. Smiling, he said that his time had finally come. A couple of hours passed and it was early morning. The elder and his people were looking for the source of the evil cultivator. She told her elder sister to take their magic weapon. She complied with the order so that they would have the opportunity to defend themselves. She ordered the second elder to guard Zishu and prevent him from escaping, and they would cover her from the rear. Then Dee asked what about him, but the master replied that if her student speaks positively about him, then the guy, of course, will go with them. Li was glad that Ye Feng's confession helped him in this matter, and he enthusiastically agreed. But the third sister asked him if the guy understood that besides him, all the elders were Yuan Ying. Isn't he afraid of Xieshu's dark power? Then the guy replied that with such force they would quickly solve this problem. The sister was surprised because she did not expect that Li had so much confidence in them. But then the guy decided to ask something. Cultivating evil is about cultivating evil skills with the flesh and blood and energy of monks. The elders are full of energy and strength, while Li will definitely be hit first. How can they save him? Li then added that if his sister had an idea, she should just tell it to him. If something happened to them, he could send a letter to the second eldest and let everyone escape quickly. Li knew the fight would be tough. This became clearer when they reached the hut, from which dark energy seemed to be pouring out. Suddenly, the elder was alarmed by something and he began to look intently into the darkness. He added that he felt dizzy, and the master said that there was something wrong with this room. Suddenly, the girl realized that it was an ancient magical spirit and decided to take the elixir against evil. But then a voice came from the darkness, mocking the fact that those who came wanted to avoid evil. Just to avoid evil, he must get rid of his magic. The friends began to look around, standing on the threshold, but did not notice anything except an eerie and oppressive atmosphere. But then they all suddenly sank to the floor, feeling that their strength was leaving them. This dark aura reigning around seemed to be sucking and blocking the powers of the elders. This concerned not only the sisters, but also the rest of those present. Was he the only one standing watching this and not understanding why he didn't feel anything? Then a male figure appeared from the shadows, laughing and saying that naturally he would not let them use their chi. Raising her head, the master noticed that the pressure of this evil cultivation was stronger than that of a god. Who is this evil man? Approaching the girl, the demon said that she could call him Sin. The third elder shouted that it was Nirvana herself. Then Li asked if the 7 elders really formed Nirvana, or are these all fairy tales? The girl replied that it was a terrible story about a more than serious crime. 10,000 years ago, a demon clan invaded the human world. The heartbreaking martial demon and the 12 Mo demons washed the entire eastern desert with blood. This battle has been going on for over 100 years. Countless monks fell at the hands of the demon clan, and the Donghuang monks almost disappeared. Tens of thousands of people who had gone through the catastrophe period gathered, and then gathered the heart-eating war demons to die together. It was this battle that made the eastern desert into a period of disaster. Nirvana or Sin, as the hand of the demon of war, eating the heart. The 7th demon is the last one to fall. Even if he faced a national attack of over 300,000 Mahayana monks, he was defeated in 3 days and 3 nights. As a result, Donghuang lost more than 100,000 Mahayans. The elder at this time asked the demon, wasn't he killed 10,000 years ago? Why is he still alive? But he replied that he would not die so easily and would not allow the demon clan to die. And then he added that it was time for him to eat, so it would be an honor for these people to become his first food. And this will be another starting point for its revival and restoration. The master sadly realized that the demon was about to suck all their capacity and energy out of them. She understood that she would soon die and remembered Ye Feng. Thinking about him, she was sad that she did not have time to tell him everything. But there was still Li in the room, who did not feel the demonic force on himself. And then it dawned on him that he could really help his people. The next moment, the master saw a strange bright light behind her. At that moment, Li, under the surprised glances of the master, took out a note from the demons found in the trash. Sin looked at the boy, trying to understand what he was up to, and Li replied that Brother Ye gave him the rune. So let Nirvana, or whatever he is also called, prepare for death. The master was inspired when she heard that her student had given Li a magic weapon. Then the guy ran up to the demon and hit him, but he easily intercepted the blow and, looking at the boy and seeing his level, thought that he was just pretending to be strong. But then the sight of the impact began to glow brightly, which surprised the demon. The brilliant golden light was familiar to him. This is the color of exorcism and exorcism. And while Sin was surprised, he missed another blow from Li right in the face. The impact was so strong that the beam formed from the light almost reached the heavens and was visible to everyone in the area. Ye Feng was sleeping soundly and sweetly at this time, not thinking about troubles. As a beam formed from Li's blow, Ye Feng opened his eyes slightly and said that it was too bright outside. And then he rolled over and fell asleep again. But Li's fight was not over yet. The demon withstood the blow and stood up. He told the guy not to be complacent because even monks cannot kill him, and the monk's magic weapon may not always work either. But then Li used another technique and tentacles appeared from behind his back. The demon did not expect that his smug and menacing speech would be interrupted in this way. And Li has already launched an attack, pointing his tentacles at the enemy. They wrapped the demon on all sides, preventing him from moving. Li himself was surprised by his abilities because he had never fought in such interesting ways. Attacks on the demon came from all sides, causing screams to be heard from his mouth. In the end, he simply evaporated, leaving no trace behind him. Only golden sparks from the light dissolved in the air or fell to the floor. They spread far and affected all the bewitched students, saving them from hypnosis. After a while, when everything got better, the master came to Li to thank him and say that thanks to him, the Xian clan still exists. The elder once again praised the guy. Without him, the Xian clan might have followed in Tian King's footsteps, but Li said that it was all thanks to Brother Ye. But no one knew that a dark and dangerous entity was now flying over Li. But now the master and Li decided to visit Brother Ye. Ye Feng told Li that he had been very diligent recently and asked why he came to him so early today. He hasn't cooked dinner yet. But then the master's voice was heard. She smiled awkwardly and said that she came here for a reason, and then asked Ye Feng to teach her how to cook. Ye Feng was surprised at her request because all this time she had only been training, but the girl replied that although she was a teacher, she was still a woman, and someday she would have to cook for her husband. Ye Feng, wanting to joke, asked if the master liked the old man who also worked as a teacher. And then he received a blow from a girl who said that he treats her without respect for saying such a thing. And she began to think that she really wanted to ask the student about cultivation. But why does she use cooking as an excuse? The stupid student seemed to treat her like a little girl. Then, Ye Feng said that if the master wants to learn how to cook, then he needs to go to the kitchen and listen to him carefully. The master replied that it was natural and followed Ye Feng. Ali decided to wait for them in the room. But there was still a dark entity flying above him. Thinking about how could this guy perform such an exorcism? He is a simple man, and a mortal at that. But then he looked at Ye Feng and realized that he had an innate Tao. The entity then realized that the power given to Li was from Ye Feng, and immediately moved towards him, thinking that it wanted to occupy his body as a vessel. After all, Ye Feng's strength could even surpass the divine, which made him attractive. Here, a system appeared in front of Ye Feng again. She discovered that the owner was about to be possessed by a powerful demon. The demon is extremely dangerous, so you need to run away. But Ye Feng did not pay attention, as he did not sense the presence of the demon. The system said that if it is found that the owner wants to find a way out, then let him go to the designated place to enter the system, and he can receive the appropriate reward. But then she relaxed, realizing that he would still be possessed. What's the point of her help? But then the voice of the master was heard, who looked in surprise at the product she and Ye Feng had made. Then the guy ran up and immediately reduced the fire, saying that the girl could burn the tofu. The master got scared and said that cooking was not her thing. But Ye Feng told her to relax and follow his rhythm, taking her hand and starting to act, adding that the girl made the tofu too hard. He was barely able to cut it by taking the master's hand and starting to guide it, telling it how to cut correctly, turn it slowly, and then guide it from bottom to top. From the awkwardness of the moment, the master blushed all over and was very embarrassed, since the guy was very close, and even held her hand. Continuing to cut the tofu with the master's hand, Ye Feng said that here she could try holding it with her index or middle finger. You need to adjust how deep the hole is in the tofu, whether it reaches the top, and whether it breaks through the film. At this point, the master became completely embarrassed and pulled away, saying that's enough talking. But because the girl twitched, she cut her finger and it hurt her. Ye Feng said again that although the master is already many years old, she is still learning to behave like a little girl. The master was angry because Ye Feng laughed at her because she was still his teacher. Then Li wanted to come into the room, wanting to say something about Brother Ye's dishes. Then he heard the voices of the master and Brother Ye, who said that soon the girl's pain would go away. Li hid around the corner, wanting to know what master and Brother Ye were doing. And the guy was still teaching the master how to cook, saying that it was okay if it took a long time. Brother Li would wait for them outside if something happened. But when Li saw the couple, he thought that they had a very close relationship. Are the teacher and student really in love with each other? The embarrassed Li felt ashamed of seeing this, which is why he ran away from Brother Ye's house. Later, Ye Feng was already watching the master cook, which she did not do very well, and the dark entity was still flying above the guy. She was thinking that it was strange that his magic did not work on this guy, when suddenly a kitchen spatula appeared behind him. The system hit her essence with all its might, protecting its owner. A little later, at the Ziyun clan meeting, third sister said that after the evil cultivation is eliminated, the inner disciples should drag the outer disciples to practice to avoid facing similar problems next time. Another sister said that it is easy to talk about it, but most of the inner disciples are still in shock. Will they be able to help in this condition? Then the voice of the master was heard, who slammed her hand on the table and ordered everyone to be silent. After all, they haven't even reached the 6th grade of Yuanying yet. She realized something yesterday when she was talking to her dear student. This is a long and old force. It flows in her body like something warm. Thanks to him, the girl realized that many of the methods in their clan were wrong. The sisters began to be indignant, saying that these techniques had been developed for several years, and the master wanted to change everything because of one cooking? But the enchanted master replied that when her precious disciple hugged her waist, she felt that Genki continued to hit her dantian. The impact speed is very fast. Often the first wave of highs does not subside, but the second wave of climax comes one after another, and then she felt that her diaphragm was broken. But still, no one understood her. How in just 2 hours she decided to change 1,000 years of history and experience, and they themselves thought that such details cannot be spoken in front of everyone. Then a man from the clan burst into the room and said that something terrible had happened on Fengming Mountain, and she's hiding something interesting. They talked about Jianyu Peak, the path to which was long and dangerous. Then the master told Ye Feng about this place, namely the Zhenyang Cave, and that thanks to her, their sect will be able to gain enormous success and strength. She understood that Ye Feng was not interested in this, but he unexpectedly agreed to this adventure. The master was incredibly glad that Ye Feng agreed, as she did not expect this. But Ye Feng was only interested in this because he had never encountered anything like this before. Although he really wanted to know more, how could there be Zhao Tingjin, the one he knew in the 70th generation? Zhao Tingjin is a good guy and one of his few friends. Unfortunately, he died too early. At this time, the pets, having heard their owner's conversation, decided to follow him. The journey was long, and eventually the Ziyun clan's ship arrived at Fengming Mountain. They were noticed by people from another clan, watching the approach of the ship. When the master and her men came out, they were immediately greeted by the highest ranks of the clan. But the local leader was the first to meet them. Master Ziyun immediately noticed the distinctive mark on his chest. This was the designation of the first-line sect of Donghua City, the Jianyin sect. Seeing Ziyun, the leader told his partner that she was quite beautiful, but it was a pity that she was actually old and no longer suitable for the role of a concubine. The partner replied that since Mr. Li was old, he needed to find young girls. The sister immediately came to the master's defense, but then stopped her, telling her to calm down. Xianyin sect is very strong, and there are dozens of monks in the divine yard alone. They can't be enemies. Then her sister agreed with her. Turning to the man, the master said that he was a Taoist friend of the Xianyin sect. It is a great honor for her to meet you. But the sect leader said that they would be the first to explore the path. The legacy of great ability belongs to them, since the Ziyan clan had the rest of the treasure, the nine-tailed fox. But then the head's gaze became angry and serious, rushing towards one of the members of the Ziyun clan. He pointed sharply at Ye Feng, and then loudly asked who he was. The master replied that this was her pride, and that her best student was Ye Feng, to which he replied that he was just an ordinary mortal, so there was no reason to be proud. He recognized Ye Feng from the past, but didn't intelligence say that he doesn't like to go out and stay a lady all day? Then the head began scanning the guy using technology. Why does he call himself mortal? Is this really true? There must be some kind of catch. In front of Qizong, he had cultivated a silver eagle cultivation genius and hundreds of Yuanying monsters on the spot. How can this be mortal? No, he is clearly provoking the head to cultivate immortals. After all, after more than 10 years of practice, he is not as good as a mortal who starts from scratch. The leader wanted to attack Ye Feng, but his partner's hand stopped the man. And then he added that the spiritual beast raised by this man killed the ancestor of the Tianqing sect at the God Peak. This person is at least in a special state, otherwise he will not be able to suppress his spirit beasts. The head then cooled down and decided to be friendly, after which Ye Feng asked him if there was a cool place to rest nearby. Then the head replied that there was definitely such a thing, and invited him to lie down in the place where he himself had previously been lying. Ye Feng thanked and lay down on a wooden bed, but the head had big and cunning plans. He wouldn't let Ye Feng come and rob him, so the inheritance of the cave would go to him. At this time, Ye Feng's pets were walking along Fengming Mountain. The dog mocked the nine-tailed fox, carrying it with him over the cliff while it was afraid and squeaked. But then he noticed something shiny and, completely forgetting about the fox, rushed to the new glowing toy. The dog's eyes were burning with curiosity while the fox he had dropped flew down the cliff. Night fell. People from two clans sat next to the cave on which the seal was placed. Ye Feng asked the master when it will completely subside. The girl replied that you need to wait a minute, half a day, more than a year. Sooner or later, there will be a day when it will open. But Ye Feng replied, if everything is so blurry, then it is better to return home. But then a strange noise was heard. The master turned to the cave and shouted that it would open now. The walls under the seal began to crack and the entrance to the cave began to fall apart, after which a gate to the Zhenyang clan appeared in front of them, which no one had met for a long time. Dongfu's appearance. It's actually a bit impressive. Although this does not match the style of the Zhao Tingjin he knew, this is the first time he has seen it in this 100th reincarnation. It's worth writing this down when you return. Zhenyangsky Taoist controls the time and flow rate of the Zhenjiang treasure day by day. As long as he does this, his cultivation speed will not be inferior to innate Eucharist. Then he turned to the elders of his sect and said that the Zhenyang sect had been opened, and there should be layers of seals in it. He told everyone to follow him to break through the Zhenyang sect's mountain defense array. The elders thought to themselves that the guy wanted to make them cannon fodder in order to receive an inheritance. Master Z said that the cave was open and invited the student to go with her, but he replied that this cave had no value for him except for the scenery, so he said that he would wait for the master on the ship. But no one noticed that Ye Feng's soul pet had already crawled through the small gap to get into the cave. Then the dog called the nine-tailed fox, saying that there was something interesting here. Both pets entered the cave and began to explore it. Going further, they saw in front of them a huge polar bear emitting a lot of energy. He then turned to the small beasts and told them to retreat quickly before they died. The fox got scared and offered to leave, but the dog saw a lot of new bones, so he rushed forward. Yin Chip Yang, which he cleverly stole. The bear noticed that the dog ran past him and was surprised at his fearlessness. The eyes were filled with anger and malice. How dare this little beast steal his treasure? The fox, watching all this, was horrified and didn't know what to do. Raising a huge clawed paw, the bear was angry that they had interrupted his practice of continuing life, so now he will destroy the small beasts. The bear chased the little thief, but trying to hit him, constantly missed. At this time, the elders from the Xianying clan were trying to open the entrance to the cave and destroyed the arrays one by one. The master noticed that the last array had finally been destroyed, and the sister noticed that the last array had finally been resolved, which did not expect that Zhenyang Zong, after destroying the 100 arrays, could still be preserved for several years. But the head of Xianying, Master Li, told Elder Shi that he would follow the plan, and after the end of cultivation he would immediately begin to take over the world. But the most important thing is not to provoke Ye Feng and Master Ziyun. Then, one of the elders said to Master Li, they have never seen the inheritance of the Zhenyang sect, and don't know if I can wait to see it, but we are ready to take risks. Elder Shi approached the other two and said that he represented the master's consent to this, and they thanked him for it. But that's only if they can defeat him. Suddenly the elder's eyes filled with anger and strength. He then used the power to drain the energy from the two elders. But then Master Li appeared in front of them and began to use his power. Thanks to her, he threw Elder Shi back, and Master Ziyun and her sister became unwitting witnesses to the fight. Then Master Z asked why Master Li would kill them. But Master Li replied that if he wanted to kill him, he would have done it long ago, but he decided to start carefully. Master Li then told Elder Shi to act, and he assured him that he would definitely obtain the necessary strength. But then a strange roar was heard which alerted the elder. Turning around, he was shocked and frightened by what he saw. A huge animal with clawed paws was coming straight towards him. Looking at this, Master D was also very scared. A polar bear stood in front of them like a huge monster, accusing them of sending their pets to steal his treasures. The elders of the Xianying clan recognized this monster as the moon bear. He growled and said that all the little people were going to die. But then a bright blue light poured right out of the ground. This power seemed to ooze out, carrying with it enormous energy. Master Z shouted for everyone to run away from there urgently. But the moon bear did not listen to her and headed straight towards the rift from which energy was oozing. But as soon as he touched her, the unexpected happened. The bear simply disappeared into thin air, as if it had never existed. Then one of the disciples called the elders to him. At this time, the evil bear teleported to another place and rushed after Master Li, with whom the same thing happened, demanding to return him back. But he, running away, made excuses, saying that he did not know how it happened. At this time, their pets were also running after them. One of them had a stolen badge in his teeth, which Master Li noticed. Looking at this, the frightened and angry master thought that now he would not be able to go back, because it all happened because of the dog. Master Z was about to run to help, but her sister said that escaping this way was impossible, but she had a 6th grade wind control pill here. First, the master must eat it. The development of their Zian sect cannot be separated from the master. The girl looked at the second elder gratefully for helping her and appreciating her as a sect master. Go then, she told her sister to eat it herself. She was very surprised by this decision. But then something flashed right in front of her at great speed. It was a Taoist from the Changjian sect who stole the pill and said that, as expected from the Zian sect, the people are united, so he would take the pill himself. He then stopped and put the pill in his mouth. But suddenly Master Z looked at the guy with horror and told him to quickly spit her out. The guy began to fill with strength, as expected from a wind control pill. But suddenly his hands began to become covered with scales, which horrified the guy. Turning into something similar to a lizard, the guy shouted that this elixir was poisonous. In the end, he turned into a small blue lizard, behind which that same huge bear appeared. The lizard realized that something had happened and began to turn its head in search of ways to escape. But the bear pressed her to the ground with a blow and crushed her, preventing her from escaping. Master Z said that it was all over, and another sect leader was gone, and then said that the sister offering her the pill was very similar to her grandfather, who also reported errors. Then the sister began to make excuses and ask for more such comparisons. Then Master Li appeared behind him and asked, "Is this sister really the second elder? Are these positions in their clan really inherited?" But then Master Z told the guy that instead of understanding the politics of the Ziyun clan, it would be better for him to take care of the moon bear behind him. But he replied that the bear was no longer chasing him, and the dog, which took his treasure, flew to Ye Feng. The elder was afraid because it was very dangerous. The pet, carrying the fox and the bear's treasure in its teeth, approached its owner as quickly as the moon bear. Then a warning sounded from the system, which said that the owner was about to receive a crushing blow and he needed to run away. But Ye Feng answered boredly that these destructive blows cannot be at every turn, so it's time for the system to come up with something new. Then Ye Feng noticed his pets below and asked why they were here. Did the master really take it with her? Taking the badge that the dog brought him, Ye Feng did not understand what this thing was. Why does she look like Tai Chi and a toy bone? Does the dog really want to play catch and fetch with him? Trying to understand what he had in his hands, Ye Feng did not even notice the approach of a huge beast. Right behind the guy, a moon bear appeared as if by magic, wanting to destroy Ye Feng and take his treasure. The system immediately shouted that it was too late to retreat, so it activated an increase in strength. At that moment, Master Z appeared and looked at her dear student with horror in her eyes. The bear swung its paw and hit Ye Feng, but he managed to dodge and received no damage. And then he realized his leg and decided to hit the beast with it while being in a calm state. The bear immediately froze, his energy began to fade, and his body began to crack, after which the monster was torn into several parts and was destroyed. Looking at this, the elders of the Xianying clan looked at it in surprise and said that Ye Feng, a human monk, was comparable to the Dongshu Peak and could kill him instantly. The back of a tiger and the thick belly of a bear are the most difficult parts of the body to injure. What is Ye Feng's strength then? Master Li himself was also shocked by what he saw, since Ye Feng did not use spiritual power for this blow. Ye Feng himself thought that he was using the 83rd generation and subconsciously using the killing techniques that he practiced as doja. But then he thought that the system was deliberately creating a crisis to harm him and the important people around him. Using his instinctive reactions allowed Ye Feng to harness the power and desire he once had. Ye Feng was angry at the system because he did not expect help from it, but it looked at the owner blankly, not understanding what she was doing wrong again. Then his pets ran up to Ye Feng again, happy that they could now be with their owner. But the guy looked at them angrily and asked how they dared to appear in front of his eyes. And then, rolling up his sleeves, he walked towards his pets with a firm gait, which scared them. The dog was still happily looking at the owner, while the fox, looking at the owner, realized by his look that he wanted to kill them. The puppy did not believe the fox, thinking that the owner would not do such a thing. But Feng took two frightened animals by the scruff of the neck and decided to deal with them. The system tried to tell the owner that although the pets caused the disaster this time, they would definitely be able to help in the future. Therefore, there is no need to kill. But Ye Feng stuffed them into a bag. Throwing the bag on his back, Ye Feng told the master to return home. The master immediately agreed, and the second elder said that now the guy is emanating so much pressure that even for the master he feels like a master. After some time, Ye Feng, the master, and the other elders returned home. They landed near the place where the elixirs were being prepared. The inspired master asked if Ye Feng wanted to make elixirs for his spirit animals to improve their abilities, but Ye Feng turned around and angrily replied that he would not do this. The guy was so angry that such an unusual expression on his face amazed all the elders and the master. And Ye Feng himself took the bag with the animals and began to put it in the oven so that they could cook. But the master again began to try to dissuade him. But Ye Feng told the girl not to open the elixir furnace under any circumstances, otherwise everything would be in vain. Smiling, the master thought that if the student uses such an interpretation, then he really wants to strengthen his pets. Third sister asked what Ye Feng's plans are this time. She replied that her student was able to kill even the moon bear. Therefore, it would not be a problem for him to kill his soul pets. So now he's definitely doing it for their benefit. Moreover, they are not just spirit pets, but one of the strongest beasts. Then the sister asked if the guy could use the herbal deposits in samadhi fire in the alchemical furnace, combined with the infinite time power of heaven and earth to train his spiritual pet. The master confirmed these words, thinking that this was indeed the case, until the pets clearly increased their abilities in the furnace. The dog perceived everything as a game and thought that it was a sauna or sunbathing, running around the stove, while the fox thought that she had not done anything wrong, but her owner still wanted to kill her. The little fox remembered his dad and mom, and thought about how much food he had not yet had time to try. Then tears flowed from the fox's eyes. Then the puppy ran up to her and asked how she was feeling and if everything was okay, but she did not answer. Then the puppy sadly thought that their owner did not think about the fox's feelings at all, so he told his sister fox that he would protect her himself and lay down next to her. But there was one thing Ye Feng did not take into account, namely the fact that the treasure stolen from the moon bear ended up in the oven along with the pets. But Ye Feng didn't care about that now. He sat on a comfortable chair and whistled songs. All this time, the system was trying to reach him, but it constantly caught failures and rebooted, since Ye Feng did not listen to it, thinking only that it was too noisy around. But suddenly the system said that thanks to a special artifact, the pets had mutated, and now they had new defense abilities. Basic defense, split. The mutated husky can target a target and allow the other side to share the defense with itself. Duration, 1 hour. Recovery time, 1 day. Also, the nine-tailed ghost fox has developed a new skill called softening. Soften material, a passive skill that can soften hard objects into a state that is easier to eat. Special disclaimer, this skill only applies to material objects and is ineffective against monks and monsters. Ye Feng heard this and was shocked that pets could mutate. At this time, Master Z was standing at the furnace, which was in such tension that it was ready to explode. Looking at this, the master said that this was exactly what she expected. But the third sister standing behind was frightened, doubting whether this really should be the case. Then the voice of the second elder was heard, who said that it was time to witness a miracle. But then threatening male voices came from the street, demanding that the Xian clan give them the spiritual beasts and what they could get, Wuji, heaven, and earth. One of the students ran into the room and told the master that people from the Miaoyan clan had come to them. The master was surprised and irritatedly said that every time these people come to the Qi clan, they talk too disrespectfully and as a result die in a few days. But the current sect leader has given an ultimatum. Either they comply with their request, or they will raze the Jian clan to the ground. At this time, the pets who were in the oven discovered that they could speak human language and realized that they had evolved. The puppy then told Nurse Fox to look at the back of his head because it was itching. At this time, Ye Feng decided to open the stove lid and noticed his pets in a very strange position. As soon as the puppy saw his owner, he told him that he could talk to his sister Fox. The system told Ye Feng to check out the new abilities of his pets, but he was only angry that he could not get rid of them again. Having put them in a bag, Ye Feng thought that if a fox climbs on a puppy, then this mutation will clearly not lead to anything good, and he needs to get rid of both of them as soon as possible. But the system tried with all its might to dissuade the owner from giving up the pets, because if he forcibly breaks the connection with them, they will rebel and pose a danger. But the guy, as always, didn't listen. At this time, the master came to the mountain gate of the Xian clan to talk with those who threatened her. Their leader continued doing this as soon as he saw the master, saying that if they did not give them what they wanted, they would meet the graves of their ancestors. But the master replied that they thought a lot about themselves, since the pets were raised in their clan and the rest of the clans knew very well about it. As for the Wuzi of earth and sky, after they broke into the cave, they saw it for the last time with Master Li. He immediately began to make excuses before Elder Dasha. Angry, Elder Dashi said that in this case he would not make excuses for the robbery, and attacked the sisters. He had the fifth god stage. The master was thinking about why the enemies who come to her sect are becoming stronger every time. They won't be able to handle it at this rate anytime soon. Then the master turned to her elders and ordered them to form a formation and unite. Then the clan gate opened and Ye Feng came out, asking if the person here was the one who wanted a pet. The master rejoiced at the arrival of the student, saying that these people had come to steal his pets and the Wuji of heaven and earth. The system begged the owner to complete the task and keep his pet, and even offered him a special reward. Lee threw himself at the feet of Elder Dashi and, in fear, began to suggest leaving quickly so as not to get involved with this man. The elder looked at Lee's reaction and then at Ye Feng, who was chatting pleasantly with Master Ziyun. Was he really able to kill the moon bear? But Ye Feng was only happy that someone wanted to take away the spirit beast from him. But looking into the guy's eyes, Elder Dashi was surprised at how insightful and deep his gaze was, full of sorrow. He had only seen this once, and everything indicated that Ye Feng was very old, and perhaps a monster who had been living for 10,000 years. This greatly frightened the elder, who began to beg not to kill him. But Ye Feng approached Elder Dashi and handed him the bag, saying that he would give him 2 spirit pets. Elder Dashi was very surprised. And then Ye Feng added that he couldn't find the artifact that Elder Dashi mentioned, so it was most likely eaten by these 2 beasts. Elder Dashi thought that perhaps Ye Feng was afraid of their sect to give such a gift, but he would rather not provoke him. But in any case, he could consider the Zian clan as an ally in the future. Master Z and her sister did not understand why Ye Feng would humiliate himself and give away the spirit beasts. And all this time Master Li was thinking that since Ye Feng came, none of the elders had said a word. He remembered that he had been warned that this guy had destroyed the Tang King sect and the moon bear with the help of a pet. So Li himself had to be careful with Ye Feng's pet. Many people told him to be careful, and this made him wary. He stopped Elder Dashi, saying, "Does he really want to take these pets?" Then the elder turned around and hit Li painfully on the cheek with his fist. And when he fell to the ground, he said that it was better for him not to say such a thing if he did not understand anything. And then he turned to Ye Feng and said that he could give him a gift and offered to transfer from the Zian sect to the Miaoying sect and become an elder. Then Master Z appeared in front of the guy and said that they had already taken away their spiritual pets, and now they want to take away their student too? But the elder replied that his Miaoying sect is the first sect in Donghua City, and the Zian sect will not allow the guy to develop, since their upbringing is weak, and even in the city there is no god level. Therefore, if Master Z really likes a guy, then she should let him go and allow him to develop. The master tried to object, but Ye Feng stopped her and said that there was no need to argue with them, because being in the Zian sect had always been the most relaxing time for him. Cooking at home is 10,000 times better than going to the Miaoyan sect to become an elder. The master was touched by Ye Feng's concern for her clan and was grateful for such words. And Elder Dashi, looking at them, realized that Ye Feng himself longed for her beauty, so it was useless to persuade any of them. At this time, a banquet was being held in honor of the birthday of Li Tianqi, the master of the Miaoyan sect. The birthday boy welcomed everyone to Donghua City and wondered what surprises he would get this year. One of the guests brought 2 dancers as a gift to the master, and the second said that his gift was even better because he presented 2 spiritual beasts. Then the master ordered this gift to be brought immediately. It was Elder Dashi, and when the hung cage was brought to him, he decided to present his gift to the master. Then he grabbed the fabric and began to pull it off the cage. But, to everyone's surprise, there was no one in the cage, but a chained Li was there, asking for help. Then the dissatisfied Li Tianqi shouted to Elder Dashi and Li Erbi, asking what they were doing. Elder Dashi also became angry and began to ask Li Erbi where did he put his animals. At this time, surprised by the noise coming from the ceiling, the students began to wonder what was happening on the roof. These were pets who ate the wooden roof because, according to the puppy, it would help them increase their spiritual power. They continued to chew on the structure until a hole appeared there. But suddenly the roof could not stand it and cracked, causing the animals to fall down. At this time, Master Z and Ye Feng were sitting at the table and drinking tea. The master very carefully used chopsticks to eat small pieces of meat. Ye Feng asked the master if it tasted good to her. She, chewing, replied that she liked it. Ye Feng then added that crispy bear paw with vinegar is not that difficult to prepare. The master then asked if Ye Feng should be worried about giving the soul pets to the Miaoyin clan, but Ye Feng replied that there was nothing wrong with that, because these animals would only increase their strength and it would be good for them. The master completely trusted Ye Feng, so she agreed with him. Who knows what surprises the animals will bring with them when they return? After all, she thought that Ye Feng gave the pets to the Miaoyin clan in order to use the clan's natural resources and treasures to cultivate spirit animals, which was smart. It was like he killed 2 birds with 1 stone. But suddenly a strange noise was heard. The master said that it was coming from the guy's room, and he decided to check what was happening. Having jumped out into the corridor, the guy could already clearly hear women's voices. They were talking about strange blindfolds and about the fact that they had nowhere to go yet and had to live here. The joyful system suddenly said that it seemed like the spirit pets had returned. Then Ye Feng angrily kicked the door down, intending to find out how they got to him again. But suddenly his gaze fell on 2 girls in cute costumes from the festival. Seeing them, the guy's anger gave way to misunderstanding and embarrassment, as if he shouldn't have seen it. Turning around, the girl shouted in fear, "Who is he?" And the blindfolded girl was just surprised and didn't understand what was happening. Then a spiritual puppy suddenly jumped out of nowhere and ran towards its owner. The fox ran out after him and, together with the second pet, ran to meet the owner. But Ye Feng only squatted down displeasedly and asked the puppy how he was able to return and what did he bring him. The dog replied that it seemed to him that the owner loved beautiful girls, so he brought them to him. Ye Feng asked in bewilderment, who could tell him such a thing? The system cheerfully replied that the guy needed to calm down, because it's not for nothing that they say that a pet always looks like its owner. Then the sound of broken dishes was heard. Ye Feng turned around and saw the master. The girl looked at what was happening in shock, and Ye Feng looked at her awkwardly in response. She then quietly asked if this was the gift that Ye Feng promised her when the pets returned. Ye Feng looked at the master with confusion, trying to remember when he promised her a gift. She sadly said that she understands that perhaps Ye Feng is not happy with the old teacher, so you are looking for other girls, although she is trying to be an ordinary girl. But Ye Feng thought that the master liked to pretend to be a young girl. Then the blindfolded girl recognized Ye Feng, his voice and soul. Maybe her owner really was reborn and it's not in vain that she's been wandering around this world for many years? She thought that the girl in front of him was his teacher. After thinking, she decided to find a way to stay here. She fell to her knees and, apologizing, said that they had misunderstood her and decided to introduce herself. Tao was sitting next to her. They were originally accepted as dancers and were supposed to assist the Miaoyan sect master to help him break through the void. If the benefactor hadn't sent a spirit pet to save the two of us, I'm afraid, sooner or later, Miaoyan controlled the entire eastern desert. Then the master said that if Li Tianqi really broke through the veil, it would really lead to disaster. Luckily, her student is smart and is killing trouble in the cradle again. But Ye Feng replied that he didn't care about that. Then he asked the master what to do with these girls. She replied that in 2 days she would find a person to accompany them. But Fa Ye pleadingly asked the master and Ye Feng not to do this because they could be kidnapped by the Miaoying sect again. Bai Tao also asked for help, as she did not want to be desecrated by the old man. The master was confused, not knowing what to do. Ye Feng then told the girl that since they were dancers, let them dance for a while in their clan before they made a decision. Then the girl, embarrassed, agreed. Then Bai Tao decided to show what she was capable of. She started dancing in her cute costume. It worked out very well because she was a master of her craft. But the master stopped them immediately, telling them not to jump like that again. Fa Ye asked in bewilderment, does the master really think that her sister is a bad dancer? But the girl replied that this is not so, and she will leave her as a disciple of the sect, but she must raise spiritual beasts every day. The master then ordered her to take the spirit beast and go with her. The girls bowed to the master, thanking her for her protection and gratitude. And then the master, taking the girls with her, left Ye Feng's house. Looking at the girl, Ye Feng thought that the master was truly supportive and very kind. But then Ye Feng noticed cracks on his gate, next to which the master was standing when she saw the dancers. At this moment, Ye Feng fearfully took back his words. A couple of days passed, and there was food on Ye Feng's table again. The master drank tea and had lunch with the student. She asked him if he gets tired of cooking 3 times a day, but Ye Feng replied that before he only thought about cultivation and did not listen to his heart, but now he does what he likes. The master replied that in any case, her precious student had an outstanding talent for cultivation, so he could do anything on weekdays. Then a tablet with a painted hieroglyph on the table vibrated, a local means of communication. The master took it and heard that the people of the Miaoyan sect had come again, and this time their master Li Tianqi had also come. Then the girl said that she would arrive soon. And then she thought that since Li Tianqi is here, he is again more than dangerous. It is better to take a precious student with you to moderate his ardor. She asked if Ye Feng could join her later, and he replied that he would talk about it as soon as he finished washing the dishes. At this time, the leader of the Miaoyan clan thought that Master Ziyun was too arrogant for making them wait 2 hours for her meal with the disciple. But then Master Z came out and told her friends from the Miaoyan sect that she was sorry for being late, and then she went out of the gate to the guests along with her student Yifan. Then the guy from the Miaoyan sect asked if they had spirit animals. The master replied that these were her animals and they were raised by her student. Li Tianqi appreciated the elder's pressure and looked aggressive. But then he suddenly attacked Elder Dashi, who was standing behind him, and he flew to the side. And then, lying on the ground, he asked the master why he did this. Master Z and Ye Feng also did not understand what was happening. But then Li Tianqi fell to his knees in front of the master and her disciple. Then Li Tianqi, handing them a bag, said that it was his indiscipline that allowed the elders of his sect to attack the Ziyun sect. Therefore, as the leader of the Miaoyan sect, he brought all the treasures of the sect to apologize. Master Z incredulously took the bag and asked what game Master Li was playing. He raised his head and with tears in his eyes, full of remorse, asked to listen to him. Yesterday, he finally celebrated his 2000th birthday, and people from all sects came to him. He accepted the gift with joy, but the log of the room was chewed by the spirit beast of Master Tsu's disciple. He wanted to stop the beast, but it managed to escape, breaking the guy's 6 ribs. All the treasures collected by the sect over the past hundreds of years were completely eaten by the spirit beast. Even the graves of the ancestors of all generations have not been preserved, although in reality the ancestor's grave is not important. What matters is that the spirit beast's power can kill him. The elder was surprised by the dog's abilities, and Ye Feng said that he warned not to take this dog. Then Master Z said that she sympathized with him and was ready to forgive the Miaoyan sect if Li Tianqi met one condition. The guy was ready to do anything to take the pets away. Master Z told Li Tianqi to dissolve the sect and spend the remaining money on meridians. The guy was dumbfounded by this condition because he is only 2,000 years old. He is still young, but Master Z wants to destroy him and make his life worse than death. But in the end, he said that he had absolutely no objections and was willing to swear on the path of heaven that his Miaoyan sect was willing to serve for the benefit of the Ziyun sect. This master decided to testify with the blood of his soul. Master Z realized that soul blood is part of Li Tianqi's soul, but will Li survive Tianqi's death depends entirely on her thoughts and intentions. After taking the blood, Master Z told Li not to be afraid, because he could become stronger by cutting off his meridians and practicing again. But she is afraid that he won't be able to run the sect without cultivation, so if the guy doesn't want to do it, then she won't force him. But suddenly Ye Feng spoke up, saying that if Master Li turned off his meridians and started practicing them again, he would be able to go through the winding chain of meridians and use his qi to connect with the spiritual whole. He will indeed become stronger, but he will have to endure 100 times more pain. The elder was surprised that her student knew so much, but he continued, asking if Li had a good fishing rod. Master Z was surprised by this question, but Ye Feng said that today was a great day for fishing. Master Z again began to look for a hidden meaning in the student's words, but Master Li handed Ye Feng a fishing rod, saying that this is the best fishing rod he has, but the guy doesn't go fishing, so he never even used it. Ye Feng noticed that the fishing rod fits perfectly in his hand and comes with a stand, making it a great tool. Master Li was pleased that Ye Feng liked the gift. Then, taking the fishing rod, Ye Feng turned around and told Master Z that he had gone fishing, and the girl wished him to catch more fish and return quickly. Ye Feng replied that it is a shame for a fisherman to return without fish, so he can return at night, and the system noted with pity that it would take too much time. But that didn't stop the guy. He came to a good place and cast his fishing rod. Ye Feng was lying on a reclined chair, and the system, holding a weapon, wanted to discuss something with him, and the guy asked why she chose the gun. The system said that this is a small Ivan-killing pistol with unlimited ammunition, which never jams, for self-defense and sect protection. Ye Feng was surprised by such a gift and did not understand why he needed it, but the system regretfully told her that she had to go and that she might never return. This news shocked Ye Feng, and he looked at the system in bewilderment and asked, "What does this even mean?" But she did not answer and disappeared. Basically, Ye Feng was pleased that this annoying system was gone and was no longer droning in his ear. It's better that she never comes back. The guy just lay there and enjoyed the sunny day fishing. But then a strong wind suddenly began to blow, bending the branches of bushes and trees. Ye Feng got angry and stood up, swearing at the strong wind. Raising his head, the guy noticed a strange flying beast whose wings cut through the clouds. Ye Feng had never seen anything like this before. But as soon as the beast flew over, Ye Feng lay down again and closed his eyes while the two dancer girls watched him. Bai Tao, lifting her blindfold, said that Feng was acting strange, but Fai Ye replied that the sister had been secretly spying on her benefactor since yesterday. Doesn't this seem weirder? And then she asked, "Isn't Bai Tao blind?" But she replied that it was one thing to seriously damage the eyes and another thing to go blind. She was not going to talk anymore but wanted to go and help the owner achieve justice. Fai Ye replied that this guy is their benefactor and future brother, not their master. At this time, two people were flying astride that very strange animal, a young girl and an adult man. The girl turned to Master Lu, asking if you could let her stay in the 10,000 Beast sect, since she didn't want to get married yet. But the man told her that she could not be willful. The seventh prince of the Dalian kingdom is destined to be immortal. The head of the family decided that she needed to marry him. Then the girl asked, why shouldn't a man marry his sister? Ultimately, her father won't mind. Then the voice of another companion ordered the master to stop and said that someone was chasing them from behind. The master replied that he had always been a kind-hearted person, so he allowed other people to die in peace. Their partner, who looked like a wolf but at the same time had the consciousness of a man, having finished the bone, said that he had accepted the order. The next moment, he disappeared, as if he had teleported to another place. All this time, Bai Tao flew behind the travelers, watching them. She was surprised by the strength of the spirit beast that was transporting the companions, and also so quickly. But then she felt someone's presence behind her, as if someone was going to attack. She immediately dodged the blow and landed on the ground, and a wolfman landed in front of her, ready to attack. He landed and confidently stood on his front paws right in front of the girl. His eyes were also blindfolded, and suddenly he said that he did not expect that the girl was also blind. Also, it looks like her soul symbol is a sword, so maybe she's a sword spirit. Bai Tao was surprised, considering that she had been practicing this for over 10 years. But it is difficult to recognize even at a distance of half a step. Then how did that person get it? Then he introduced himself, saying that he was a soul cultivator at the transformation stage, so he had a third eye in the forehead area. Sword spirits are rarer than their spirit beasts. It seems that he must give the girl to the owner safe and sound. But the indignant girl, taking out her sword, only replied that this does not change anything, and if she managed to attack her by surprise, then she would do it now. But in 1 second there was a claw strike, which was very powerful. Bai Tao's sword broke in half as if it had been cut, causing her to be shocked. The man with the spirit beast said, if the girl still wants to fight him with her broken sword, then she can show her true self. But the next moment, under the indignation of the enemy, the girl simply began to run away. Bai Tao thought that since she didn't have a weapon, there was no point in fighting, so now it was better to deceive him and bring him to the owner to solve the problem. At this time, Ye Feng was still fishing nearby. A man-beast suddenly appeared on the horizon and saw a guy lying on a wooden couch. He looked around and was surprised that there was no girl around, who apparently deceived him. Otherwise, why was there only a mortal here? Tao appeared in the bushes and asked Ye Feng not to hand her over to the man-beast. The next second, the girl's enemy appeared in front of Ye Feng and asked if he had seen her. Ye Feng replied that no one passed here. Then the beast said that if he was lying to him, he would soon die. Ye Feng looked at the enemy confidently and thought that the system really thinks that if she is not around, he will be afraid. This is definitely not the case, so he replied that the beast could try to do it. The man-beast raised his paw over Ye Feng, saying that the guy is very brave, so he will do as he wants. But then his third eye on his forehead began to glow, trying to read the enemy in front of him. Something interesting lying next to the motionless and calm guy. Taking the gun, he asked Ye Feng what this thing was. The guy immediately suggested that the beast put this thing down, since it was very dangerous and was a weapon. But the beast did not believe it. After all, this weapon is smaller than his finger. How can it harm? Ye Feng replied that if you do not pull the trigger in the middle, then the weapon will not cause any harm. Putting the weapon to his temple, the animal, amused, decided to find out how it worked, not believing in its danger. The next second he checked it, which led to inevitable consequences. Ye Feng continued to fish despite what happened at that moment. He thought that the system sent fools to scare him, but in the end, he outplayed it. The fish continued to swim in the pond but did not bite. Then, after taking the beast's body, Ye Feng thought that it was better to get rid of it, but it is too similar to human. Master and the others would not dare to eat it. They should turn it into fish food or something. Tao was watching the guy, whom he saved from death. Lifting the bandage, she tried to understand what kind of weapon it was because there was no spiritual power to it, but it could kill a god. Apparently, Ye Feng is much stronger than her, which is why he refused her help. She then picked up the gun and decided that if she could make it part of her body, then Master Ye Feng would accept her. Sometime later, in another place, Master Lu stood disappointed, realizing that his spiritual pet had died. He called the girl Grandma Qi, telling her and Pet Jun to stay put while he needed to hurry back. The girl agreed. At this time, both smells were coming from Ye Feng's kitchen, and something incomprehensible was flowing from under the closed door. Approaching her, Master Z looked at the blood in surprise and thought that Ye Feng might have been injured while fishing. Immediately opening the door, she walked into the room and asked if her student was okay. Ye Feng turned around in surprise and noticed Master Z. The master was immediately horrified, thinking that now the student was preparing not only spirit beasts, but also people. At this time, Master Lu was hovering over the Xian clan, searching for his spirit man beast. He felt the aura of every corner of the city. The aura below is too weak, so his opponent clearly did something to his pet, not out of evil intentions, but it looked more like an ambush. Raising his staff, he began to activate his energy. Since someone had used such vile means to kill his spiritual pet, he was unwilling to be merciful and wanted revenge. And then, rising into the sky, the master fired down a huge and destructive beam full of energy. At this time, at Ye Feng's house, the elder told the guy that he really knows how to spoil materials. After all, the skin of this wolf demon could be used to make high-quality leather armor, but he just wanted to get rid of it. But Feng replied that he just didn't want to scare the girl, so he didn't do anything yet. When they went outside, they noticed how the sky suddenly became cloudy, and Ye Feng asked the master, "Is it really going to rain?" But then a man was clearly visible above, directing his power directly at Ye Feng's house. The master was scared, thinking that someone wanted to destroy her Xian clan. A huge ball of energy hung over the clan, ready to explode. Out of fear, the master attacked Ye Feng, hugging him. He was surprised at first, but then he understood the situation. Here, a second before the huge ball reached the sect, a large rainbow barrier formed around it. A strong blow hit him, but failed to penetrate, causing a shockwave to form. Looking at this, Master Lu couldn't understand what was going on and why didn't anything work. But suddenly he was overtaken by a shockwave that knocked him down from above, causing him to scream loudly. After which there was another explosion, after which the man was carried too far by the shockwave. Here a new notification from the system appeared, stating that it was the system that activated the protection, and now its protection is worthy of trust. Ye Feng, hugging the master, realized that the annoying system was really strong, and if it was not there, it would cause even more problems. Ye Feng then told the master that there was nothing to fear anymore as he had repelled the lightning strike. The girl asked if everything had really disappeared, but the guy answered with confidence that everything was fine. The girl then fearfully said that she thought that they would die here, but Ye Feng, placing his hand on her head, replied that this could not happen, since he would not allow anyone to harm them. The embarrassed master told Ye Feng not to touch her head, since she was his teacher after all. Then Ye Feng said that he would not do this again and began to withdraw his hand, but the girl intercepted it, asking why he was in such a hurry to take his hand away. After all, her hair is disheveled and can be straightened. Ye Feng completely stopped understanding the master's words, but this was clearly due to the fact that she wanted the guy to pat her on the head. At this time, Master Lu was dealing with the consequences of the shockwave of his own magic, having fallen heavily from a height and punching a hole in the ground. Raising his head, the man thought that he did not expect this sect to have such a powerful set of defenses. He must inform the seventh grandmother and the owner of the family to come to the rescue. Then the man heard voices from the bushes and thought that if there was someone here, he could try to use spiritual power to restore his body. Coming out of the bushes, the man turned to the guy opposite and said that there was no point in such strong training. But then the guy turned around and began to be indignant, saying that no one dares to peep while he is training. This was Ziyun's student and Ye Feng's friend, the same Li. But the man told the guy not to worry because he was just a traveling Taoist priest passing by. Noticing the guy's efforts, he simply wanted to help him, but Li didn't understand why he should believe it. Beginning to get angry, the man thought that if he had not been seriously injured, he would have really wanted to beat the little fool to death. But the man calmly took the Eye of Insight out of his pocket and wanted to talk about it. But Li abruptly snatched the artifact from the man's hands and thanked the Tao Master for the gift, since it was not safe here. Then the man said that it didn't matter because he had a second ball. But Li took it away from the disgruntled master in the same way, thanking him and calling him generous, and then asked him if the man had anything else useful. But he was already seething with anger at the boy, thinking that his spiritual power would soon end. And suddenly Li, with his peripheral vision, noticed and felt that something strange was happening. The master put his hand on his head and began to suck out the energy. But even after some time, the guy did not feel any changes and continued to stand, not understanding what was happening. And when he understood, he also calmly began to resist, releasing his own energy in response and absorbing someone else's. The man was surprised that instead of the guy's strength, his spiritual strength was absorbed. This way, he won't be able to maintain his development. Moreover, he could not move his hand. And Li just stood calmly and continued to absorb the master's energy. Eventually, it began to run out, after which the master began to scream for help, but it was too late. In the end, he dissolved in the same way as all his previous victims. In a word, he got what he deserved. At this time, an unusual griffin-like spiritual beast was hovering in the sky. There was a girl sitting on it who realized that Master Lu had died, but did not understand why. Then she turned to the griffin, calling him Jun, and asked him to come back and see what happened. He agreed, but the next second it was as if someone shot at his wing. The griffin screamed, but did not lose his balance, continuing to carry the girl. Turning her head, she asked who dared to hurt her beast. Below, she saw a blindfolded girl, in whose hands there was a pet and a strange object from which she was shooting. Turning to the puppy, Bai Tao pointed at the girl and said that she was mocking their owner, and then ordered the pet to bite her for this. The dog was only happy with this offer. Looking sideways at the spiritual puppy, the girl on the griffin understood that he was just a baby. These two clearly underestimate her. But soon the girl began to run away. Bai Tao shouted to her that if she has the courage, then let her fight them. After all, she doesn't even use a weapon, but simply sends her master's spirit pet to fight her. Still running away, the girl thought, what strange sect were Bao Tai and her pet from? This little dog was obviously so cute, but in the blink of an eye, he tore off 4 of her falcon's legs. And this girl is obviously only at the golden elixir stage, but she has a heaven-defying artifact. No matter what magical weapon the escaping woman used to protect herself, it would break with just her touch. In the end, the girl ran to a house located on the top of the mountain. Opening the doors and running inside, she hoped that she could take refuge in this clan, and it would not become an enemy to her. At this time, Bai Tao was wandering in the forest with a gun and a soul pet, thinking that that strange girl was running faster than her puppy, which was surprising. But the dog suddenly picked up the trail and began to head towards the hiding girl, who really did not want to be found. Then the dog said loudly that he smelled the familiar and tasty smell of the girl. Hearing this, the girl was horrified and thought that it was all over. Then a male figure appeared behind Bai Tao and asked what she was doing in his yard. The girl immediately recognized Ye Feng's voice, as did his dog, who immediately began asking her owner to play with her. But Ye Feng angrily asked the dog to get out of the way because he wanted to sleep, so he had no time to play. The frightened girl who was hiding behind the shutters realized that Ye Feng was the owner of the spirit pet, so she would definitely be finished as she was in the enemy's lair. And Ye Feng himself asked his sister to take care of the spiritual pet. She agreed and picked up the puppy in her arms. Then the guy added that if Bai Tao could not stand this pet, then she might not take care of him. But the girl replied that the owner should not worry, since she would definitely handle everything. When the guy entered the house, he turned to Bai Tao and thought about how she sees the road in front of her, and all because of this stupid annoying dog who always brings people to him. The girl who was hiding suddenly thought with fear that Ye Feng had known about her all this time. Then the guy extended his hand and was about to open the doors. Entering the room, Ye Feng noticed a blanket on his bed, under which someone was hiding and shivering. Then the guy walked up to the bed and decided to lift the blanket covering something strange. But as soon as he lifted the blanket, he heard a heart-rending scream and got scared himself. Seeing the little girl, Ye Feng asked who she was and who taught her to climb into other people's beds under other people's blankets. The girl immediately asked the elder for forgiveness for taking such liberty. She had offended him earlier, so he sent his spirit pet to kill her falcon and chased her all the way here. But the girl said she was wrong. But Ye Feng suddenly said that he had never been hostile to this girl and her falcon, so that's not the point. Suddenly the girl became even more frightened and thought that this clan had killed her soul pets and master just like that. Then she suddenly said that since Ye Feng's behavior is the same as the elders, and his soul pets and servants are stronger than the elders' disciples, he should at least be a powerful person in the out-of-body world. Then can she ask for help to get rid of the family and not marry the prince of the Liang kingdom? Then Ye Feng replied that let the girl stay with him, and tomorrow he will talk with Master Z and resolve this issue, and also pay her compensation for her pet. But the girl immediately began to dissuade Ye Feng, saying that compensation was not needed. Ye Feng asked why she decided this. Because Ye Feng would have to find a reasonable explanation for her to stay here. Moreover, the girl likes adults and even older people since she is already very mature. And now, Situ Liang must hold back, because until he can win Master Ye's favor, the elder brothers and sisters of the 10,000 Beast sect will no longer be able to bully the girl. Surprised by her words, the guy decided to look into it and imagined what it could turn into. He thought about how he was being arrested for spending time with her, who was actually very old. Then, wrapping the girl in a blanket, he told her to take care of her body, since Ye didn't want to go to the police station and do forced labor. At the same time, the Taichu black hole showed activity again, but it only opened once every million years. In order to plunder more resources, countless strong people fought and died here. Only a few people became Gu Kings and were able to take the treasures. In this place, systems fought for artifacts for their masters. Ye Feng's system was taking away a sword from another system. Suddenly, she sharply hit another system, whose chip fell out. Thus, Ye Feng's system was still able to win the sword for its master, to the regret of other systems. But suddenly the system became sad, because its owner still doesn't want anything. Even if she dies, her owner will not be sad, and she only tries for him and gets weapons. Suddenly a girl appeared in front of the system, saying that she had already learned many tricks, and it was strange that she had not yet attacked her master. Then the girl said that they had not seen each other for a long time. It was a crazy system. The girl noticed that the killings committed by the system for the sake of the sword were very intense, so that other systems could not even reboot and resurrect. Ye Feng's system thought that the prodigal system wanted to destroy it the same way it destroyed other systems, and decided to start defending itself. But the girl replied that she was not one of them, other systems. She does not fight openly, but dodges, prepares traps, and sets mines. She does not want to harm the system, but, on the contrary, wants to make a deal with it. Ye Feng's system remembered how it fought for another artifact. While hiding, she watched other systems. Then, with a sly and relaxed look, she seemed to accidentally throw a bomb into other systems. The systems immediately attacked the bomb, realizing that it was very strong and powerful. I had to go to extraordinary lengths to get good things. Then, the system agreed to the girl's proposal, who showed her a possible new owner. The price is all the luck points that she will receive this time, so the girl can sell it as a subsystem. Then the system asked what function it would have, but the girl replied that there is no function, but there is passivity, which can give the owner 5 times more chicken blood, which will no longer be rotten. The joyful system was ready to accept this offer, and was already handing the girl its chip. But the girl smiled slyly when she took the chip, and as expected, if she managed the deal correctly, she could quickly make a fortune. But looking at the received data, the girl saw only emptiness, and an inscription indicating that the contents of the device were empty. The angry prodigal system called system number 2204. How dare she lie to her? Someday she will definitely take revenge on this petty system for deceiving her. At noon, Master Z and the second elder flew to Xianyufeng Mountain. The master was surprised that there was no smell of food and no smoke coming from the stoves from the house. Second elder replied that Ye Feng might be meditating right now, or perhaps he was sick. But the master replied that she had a bad feeling and was worried. My sister thought that she was worried about him too much. They decided to follow the student and quietly climbed onto the roof. The second sister, seeing the guy sitting on the chair, said that there seemed to be no problem. But the master did not agree with this, not believing that her intuition had failed her. But then the second sister sensed the girl's presence, saying that she was Ziyun, 1145 years old, falsely stated that she was 14 years old. Then the door of Ye Feng's house opened slightly, and a woman's voice called out to the elder. The girl came out and asked what he was doing with the weapon and the stone in his hands. The two sisters were shocked to see this girl in his house. Master Z sank, upset that her student was with another girl, but the second sister tried to console her, saying that she needed to talk to him first and find out everything. But the master, looking at the girl, already thought that Ye Feng, judging by this little girl, likes small shapes. If she had, she would have reduced them, but her sister said it was a stupid idea. But the master had already begun to ask her sister how she could reduce her form, but she replied that it was better to swim on the waves than to hit the rocks, and if this is love, then Ye Feng will accept it anyone. Then in her head the girl imagined herself approaching her student and asking him to come to her, smiling sweetly. But then she came to her senses, remembering that she was the master of the clan and the headmaster of Ziyun. She can't afford to behave like that. Then the master said, why not let her eldest disciple Zibing return? She definitely knows what to do. Sister thought that she should warn Zibing, because no one in the sect knows that the master and Ye Feng have a relationship that goes beyond the relationship of master and disciple, and they are still pretending to be shy. At this time, the girl walked up to Ye Feng and asked if he was engraving the inscription. The guy replied that it said, I've been gone for 2 days and I probably won't be able to come back. The girl thought this was a creepy and sad statement. Then the girl asked the elder if he liked to hunt monsters. She noticed a lot of animal hair in his kitchen last night. Ye Feng confirmed these words, saying that monster meat was delicious. Then the girl suggested to the elder that they make a deal to ensure that every meal the guy had was made from monsters. Ye Feng then asked if she was involved in monster trading. The girl wanted to talk about her family, but then she heard her name called and asked if the seventh sister would betray their beast clan. It was Jia Tsun, boy, riding a dragon. He thought that the girl would get married, but he didn't expect that some guy would dare to kill Master Lu and the falcon beast. He really liked that girl, courageous and brave. If she follows him, he will decide the sex affairs for her. The girl replied that the deaths of Master Lu and Falcon were her fault, and she was willing to be punished when she returned to the sect, so they didn't need to worry about it. At the same time, she wanted to make a good impression on her rescuers. Then Jia Kong said that the girl had made her choice and ordered the dragon to burn down the Xian sect and return the seventh sister to him. The dragon accepted the order. But Ye Feng suddenly replied in a non-stern and threatening manner that he advised him not to do this in the sect, as it would have dire consequences. But Jia Tsun just laughed, saying that he would do without consequences, and again ordered the dragon to attack. Then the dragon released a huge stream of fire into Ye Feng's house. The fire flew straight to the top of the mountain, ready to consume everything around it, but suddenly collided with a strange invisible barrier. Jia Tsun, seeing this, was surprised and tried to understand what was happening. The dragon was also shocked. Fireworks display exploded on the top of the mountain. Ye Feng knew that this was a system development, so it was useless to attack the clan. Ye Feng continued to sit quietly and look at the engraved inscription while the little girl admired his strength. Having fallen from the dragon, Jia Kong, trying to get up, thought that this sect is really strong, this must be reported. But suddenly a blindfolded girl appeared right in front of him. Then she picked up the bandage and said that she would also like to know. Let this person better tell her about it. After some time, the girl was already sitting on the iron box and was resting while a voice from it asked to be released. She waved her hand emotionlessly in front of her face to cool down a little after the easy battle. A dog ran up to Sister Faye and asked why she put this man in the bed. He thought that this box was a really comfortable bed. She replied that this was in order to save, destroy the dead, and help destroy the wounded. Then the puppy ran up to the girl and asked if he would have a small bed if he was a good dog, who didn't make the owner angry and did more good things. The girl replied that this is nature, and this always happens. At this time, another girl woke up in the thickets and stretched. She was locked in this box for so long, but now she is finally free. Then she walked up to the ginger cat and thanked him for the fact that this little guy had accompanied him all this time. The girl didn't know how things were in the sect now, so she first decided to see what information the token left. After reading the contents, the girl realized that something was wrong with her owner. Then she instantly stood on her sword and flew towards her master, who replaced her mother. At this time, Master Z was sitting at home and listening to the explanations of the girl who came to Ye Feng. The girl introduced herself as just the seventh sister in the sect. Personal disciple, second floor Dongshu, is far from being a master disciple. Then the master asked the girl why she came to her second-rate sect to disturb her beloved disciple. But the girl replied that the old lady misunderstood her, and the girl just wanted to invite the elder to become a guest in her 10,000 beast sect. That master, with a stony expression on her face, asked what the girl called her, and the glass cracked in her hand under the pressure of force. Then the master looked the girl in the eyes and asked why she should believe her. Then she replied that the old woman, as a teacher of her students, should ask her predecessors what they think, right? But the master replied that this would only complicate the situation and that the girl was not much younger than her. Why then did she call her an old woman? The girl began to taunt the master, saying that if she was strong, then she definitely couldn't be young. Otherwise, everything is the other way around. Then the master replied that now her old woman will wake up in her. Ye Feng was shocked by the girl's behavior, but as soon as they tried to contact him, he said not to touch him, since it had nothing to do with him. But suddenly the girl turned back to the master and only now noticed her curvaceous form. She even began to hiccup out of frustration, since the master's figure was clearly more stately. Having settled down, she understood why her predecessor was not interested in her body. It's too embarrassing to even show. But then, Ye Feng turned to the girl and asked her to take him to the Thousand Beast sect. Her eyes lit up with happiness and she was ready to lead the guy along. They soon set out and reached the Thousand Beast sect at night. The girl gave a short tour, talking about local attractions whose names resembled the names of animals, which Ye Feng found quite interesting. Then a shadow appeared from above and a loud voice was heard calling the guys disabled. Then a huge man with a crown on his head landed in front of them. He attacked the girl and said that he would take revenge on her for the death of his son. The girl turned to the elder Jia Zhuo. He said that she had some conflicts with the fifth brother, but after the fifth brother left, he disappeared and she didn't kill him. But the man did not believe it, saying that it was a lie, and with one blow he pressed the girl to the ground. The girl asked Elder Jia Zhuo invite the foreign minister for the sect master to deal with this. He can't just kill her. But the evil man said that his son was dead, so he would easily kill her. Not to mention the master, even the eldest could not stop him. Looking at all this, Ye Feng thought that bullying was a common thing in the world of immortality. If they continued like this, they would miss dinner time, which was bad. Then the man turned to Ye Feng and said that he was also the killer of his son. But Ye Feng only pointed at himself in surprise, not understanding what he was talking about, because he was not involved in anything, at least in person. Then huge Jia Zhuo ran into the guy and asked why he was just standing there all this time. While Jia Zhou was preparing to strike, Ye Feng thought about the possibility of using a pistol, but then decided that it would not even be necessary for such a weak opponent. After which he took out the sword of the Flaming Emperor and placed it in front of him directly opposite the blow.